Fourth and goal. Doyle and Smith out of the eye. Sims in motion. Smith got in this time. No doubt about it. Touchdown Baylor.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
As they go with the pass to Lamb and the touchdown.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Let's bring some pressure. Can't take a sack, and the ball is on the ground. He was a little too patient back there. Thibodeau came around the edge, and that's why they call him a game wrecker.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Armstrong to the end zone. High catch and a tremendous grab by Wicks in the end zone for 6.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. It is the last week of the college football season before the daily or weekly soap opera of the College Football Playoff Committee, and they start to tell you who is where in the standings. We discussed that a little bit earlier in the week. Good afternoon. Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina to my left. I'm David Smoak, Jack McKenzie, Armstrong Sims today running the mothership. We'll have focus in on Oregon today. We'll also focus in on Virginia football. Bronco Mendenhall is playing Brigham Young. He used to be at Brigham Young, and also the story involving some more of that realignment from this week in a school like Old Dominion with David Teel of the Richmond Times-Dispatch. He'll join us, Max Olson, today at 4 o'clock. So, Paul, right now, even though it means nothing right now, just like even rankings, although that's fodder for discussion and top, Craig as well, who would be your 4 best college football teams you've seen so far this year?
Georgia, Cincinnati. I mean, I want to say Oklahoma because they're undefeated, but they're not one of the 4 best I've seen this year. I think Alabama's still one of the 4 best I've seen, even though I wouldn't put them in the playoff directly right now. And after the Oregon game, Ohio State.
Georgia, Cincy, Bama, and then I think it's like a 4-way race for, the 4th spot. I don't think that Oklahoma's clearly, that much better than Ohio State, vice versa. I think that there's a logjam for that 4th spot, but I think, Cincy's definitely got to be right there, being unbeaten, although I'm sure we'll hear some knocks about their schedule or something, later on. But regardless of that, they're, sitting there at number 2 for a reason. So you got to have them. You got to have Georgia, obviously. Got to have, I think, Bama at this point. They just, as far as eye test goes and whatnot. And then I don't really have a real great argument for, like, Ohio State looks so much better, and they're clearly, I don't have that. I don't have that for Ohio State or Oklahoma or Oregon or any other team that you want to throw in that mix. So I can only give you 3 right now. But that's why the rankings don't matter right now. Yeah. So we don't need 4. We just, we need 4 at the end of the year. But we got to do this thing where we talk about 4 right now. So I'm curious to see what the argument is for number 4. If it's just Oklahoma, they go flat with the polls. There's a case to be made for them. There's also a case to believe that they might not, remain in the mix given their upcoming schedule and the fact that they have to play Baylor and Iowa State and Oklahoma State. But if they get through that, regardless of how ugly or pretty it is, if they get through that, then there's not going to be denying their spot in this mix of 4 teams.
What happens if you get to that last week and Oregon has 1 loss? And I know we sometimes, there's going to be 9 teams that remain undefeated. Well, a lot of them are going to play each other, and there's really not that many left. You have Georgia, and you have Cincinnati, and you have Oklahoma, Michigan, and Michigan State. They play this weekend. Wake Forest is undefeated. We highlighted them yesterday. SMU, they play Cincinnati. They're unbeaten, and San Diego State's rolling along, and UT San Antonio. What happens, though, if, in fact, at the end of the year, Oregon and Ohio State are in the same position as Baylor and TCU were? And in those 2 teams, neither one of them made it. The argument was about head-to-head or whatever. What happens if Ohio State's selected over Oregon? Then why do you play games?
Yeah, I think that if Ohio State's selected over Oregon, that's kind of nonsense because, again, there's no punishment for Ohio. That's if they both would win out, obviously. But if they both win out and win their conference, then I think if you're the committee, you got to say, look, you got to punch Ohio State for something because that's just going back to the same thing of, when LSU beat Alabama and then had to play them again, Alabama suffered no penalty for losing to LSU, and LSU got no benefit from winning the conference. They had to turn around and beat a team they barely beat before in the national championship game. So that's the same thing. It doesn't matter when it was that it was in week 3 or 4 or 2, whenever it was. Look, Ohio State should suffer a little bit for that loss, and if it comes down to them in Oregon, it should be Oregon because Oregon beat them.
That's where they kind of put themselves in a pickle because, teams do get better as the year goes along, and teams get worse as the years go along. So I think if you were to replay Ohio State, Oregon right now, who's to say what that looks like? Should they go by the head-to-head result? Absolutely. But is it understandable if somebody on the committee weeks later now looks at it and goes, well, that's not the same 2 teams that played a few weeks ago? Yeah, and that's why, having that human part of it makes it unpredictable and makes it, makes it open for some biases and, makes it kind of curious of what they're going to do. I'm also curious to see with UTSA and SMU both being undefeated, being amongst the ranks of the, very few who are still undefeated at this point. And the one thing about their schedules is neither team's beating a top 25 team or anybody of like major substance where you can point to like they've got this many and they've got this many. So I'm curious how that's viewed. If it's more, hey, they're undefeated and they get respect just for that, or if they break them down the way they break other teams down when they're trying to create some separation. So
Cincinnati has the win against Notre Dame that gives them that oomph, that oomph win, and as you mentioned. And if SMU, though, beats Cincinnati,
right,
heck, that's a better win than beating Notre Dame.
But as of right now, they don't have a win like that. That's what I'm saying. I'm curious to see that if those 2 remain unbeaten, how is that eventually weighed into things? But again, it may not matter after this weekend, so we'll see.
From Tony, because picking Oregon leaves the networks liable for a nationwide outbreak of cirrhosis of the eye caused by too much exposure to their uniforms, and we get a few more of you as well. One of the things about what I brought up Ohio State and Oregon, even though there's so many more games, both of them could lose games even going forward, and most likely there's a chance one of them or both of them loses yet another game. The problem I bring up, the reason I bring that up is if Ohio State had beaten Oregon earlier in the year, had they beaten Oregon earlier in the year, and then lost to, let's say, whoever, Iowa, Penn State, Michigan, whoever, would we say the same thing about that early win that sometimes Oregon, let's say Oregon goes on a roll? Of course, in the Pac-12, that's not going to be much of a resume.
There's different rules for different people, and we've seen that for years. And that. But if you did, that's precisely what Oregon has done so far. They beat Ohio State, and they lost to somebody that's far less than Ohio State. So because they have that loss, they could theoretically, the committee could make that same argument of like, well, yes, they did beat Ohio State, but their loss is to a team that's worse than them, just like Baylor's loss to West Virginia was somehow a lot worse than TCU's loss to Baylor.
Straight up.
But it's like they took the fact that Baylor was the team TCU lost to out of that. Like, it just, they weren't a candidate in it anyway.
I want to read this. This is not about the argument, but I want to read this because we appreciate Zach Sloter. I think it's Sloter. Hello from Ames, Iowa. I used to hate Baylor until I started listening to you guys. You guys are my favorite sports talk show now. Keep up the good work and go Cyclones. Zach, that's awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Zach. I know there's not really an affinity for Baylor from Ames, Iowa. He definitely picked up on that over the years. But, hey, we're just regular old people too, and we appreciate you and definitely respect what Matt Campbell and company are doing. And I wrote in my power rankings today, they're probably the hottest team in the Big 12 just in terms of the way they're being talked about, even though OU's the undefeated and you've got Baylor and Oklahoma State playing really well. It seems like after last weekend and that win, Iowa State's kind of being looked at as that team that could go on a run these next few weeks and find themselves in the title game. So wouldn't be surprised to see that. But going back to Oregon, Ohio State, the thing about like discussing all this is I know the fun of the playoff ranking show is to do exactly what we're doing right now. That's why they do it, is to get everybody talking and generate buzz. But it's just hard for me to really get too in the mud about Ohio State and Oregon right now when Oregon's only top 25 win is Ohio State. They're not going to play another top 25 team the rest of the way. So the only game of real substance on their schedule will be Ohio State when it's all said and done. Meanwhile, Ohio State, yes, they lost to Oregon, but at the same time, they are going to close their schedule. The last month, they're going to play number 20 Penn State this weekend, and their final 2 weekends are top 10 Michigan and Michigan State. Now, those obviously won't both be top 10 teams probably at that point again, but Ohio State, Oregon right now, you can go Oregon win the head-to-head and blah, blah, blah. But by the end of the year, if both run their schedules, I'm taking Ohio State over Oregon, even though they lost the head-to-head.
All right, but who is Ohio State beaten?
If they go through the end of the year is what I'm saying.
I understand. And Penn State right now hanging in the top 25. They're hanging by a thread. But they would eventually beat most likely a top 10 team, you're right, Michigan or Michigan State. They would, then the Big Ten championship, of course, that would be, if it's Iowa, which it most likely be, they most likely by then will be somewhere around 10 or better. So there's a couple of top 10 wins. But yet again, it's like Oregon's being penalized because the rest of their conference isn't very good, and Ohio State's fortunate because their division this year seems to be pretty good. It still has to mean something, and especially since that win against Oregon, or by Oregon, was at Columbus. And it's yet like it's like that game doesn't count at all. Yeah, they beat them in September, and since that time, Ohio State's won 12 in a row, or whatever it might be. It's just a topic. 254-339-1122.
I'm with you. Head-to-head has to matter, but, I mean, when it's like the first month of the season and you play all these other games, like, those have to matter too. Like, I don't think you should be able to just hang your hat. Like, basically, you would just be hanging your hat on that one win you got in, September, early October. And that's it, really. And it's not their fault that there's no other competitive teams in the Pac-12 right now that are being talked about and being, put in the rankings and all of that. Arizona State had started off hot and then fell off. But, you can't penalize them for that. And, Oregon's just got to keep winning. You just keep winning and make it interesting. I have a hard time just making a solid, yes, it should be this way because I know what games are coming up. So right now, Oregon should be above Ohio State.
But that's why I brought it up, because there is a debate there, and it's a legitimate debate.
But right now, no, they should be ahead.
Yeah, either side to me. But right now, Ohio State's already ranked higher than Oregon in the poll, and it's been 4 or 5 games since then, but it's almost like, but that's Ohio State, and they're running the table the rest of the way. We don't know that. And so they might get knocked off at any time. Maybe it's Penn State. I don't think so. And then it won't even be a discussion because then they'll have 2 losses.
But I do have a question for you. They beat Ohio State head-to-head, but does their loss to Stanford not matter?
No, it does matter. It's just like the loss to Baylor. The loss by Baylor in 14 to West Virginia on the road mattered.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the loss to Stanford still matters. 31-24. I don't even know
35-28 was the Ohio State-Oregon score. It's the same thing.
At Ohio State.
I get that, yeah.
31-24, and Stanford scored an overtime to beat them. So if that game's going to be broken down as that's a bad loss, then what about Alabama against unranked A&M, who had just lost to Mississippi State? See, that's all about. That's why it's kind of like almost a spider web, how we can paint the pictures. And listen, I understand. I was stunned Oregon not only beat Ohio State, they punched them in the mouth and made them like it.
But the fact that we we have to have this debate, or the committee has to have this debate, is more reason why they have to fix the playoff. Because when you're starting to, because then eventually you start to really split hairs, and what Kirby Hocutt or Jeff Long or whoever was the spokesman should have gone to say when Reese Davis asked him, why do you think these are the best 4 teams? Say, we watched all the film, we have experts in the room, this is what it is. And this team schedules better, they're a better team. That's it. That's the only real reason, because when you start getting the weeds of like, well, the Stanford loss was worse than the Oregon, all that stuff, ultimately is splitting hairs. And that's why they've created a system that kind of collapses in on itself and creates so much controversy. But part of them, I think, likes that because it creates people watching a show for 7 weeks that doesn't matter.
And that's why I'm not going to be watching it all. I'm not one of those that, they fooled me once in that first year, and I'm a big college football fan, but I get nothing out of that playoff show. I mean, I have a much easier time just, what are the rankings at the end of it? Okay, cool. Let's break down why they said what they said, but I don't need to sit through 30 minutes to an hour of whoever telling me why blah, blah, blah. I would imagine that if they gave a little more insight into the debates that actually go on, that'd be interesting to see, and more of rather than just throwing phrases or something out there to explain it, like, tell me why. Yeah, why should Ohio State and Oregon situation be looked at this way or that way? And that does make for fun. It makes fun for us talking about it. But again, I think the timing of the playoff show is kind of dumb because there's so many big games left.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many huge games.
But money?
I know why. I know why. I'm just saying, I think, okay, take the one thing that everybody obsesses over 24/7 out of the equation for once, and let's not worry about money, which I know will be hard for most people out there, but take that out of the equation. There's no point because there's too many big games left that matter. I mean, Ohio State, yeah, like the Oregon game. So what? They played 3 top 20 teams in the next 4 weeks. So we'll know about Ohio State, and we'll know about Oregon, and we'll know a lot more in December rather than what a game in week 2 did. But yeah, that game should matter for Oregon. They should not be necessarily behind Ohio State, but you know that loss to Stanford.
It's all about timing when you win.
Whereas
and lose too.
A&M's loss to Mississippi State doesn't probably matter as much because they beat it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird how it works. You're
Matt
right.
in D.C., head-to-head matter? How about 2016 Penn State beat Ohio State, won the Big Ten. Won the Big Ten, and Ohio State made the playoff over them. They won the game and then won the Big Ten, which also means they won the division. The tiebreaker is the highest television ratings, period. Matt in D.C.
Yeah,
we
that's
appreciate
true.
that, Matt. Also, from the 5-1-3, Ohio State lost to Virginia Tech that same year. They won the national title in 14 at home, and then went on to be the number 4 seed, beating Alabama and Oregon. Yeah, we've seen the 4 seed win it, and that was a buzz. I mean, Ohio State went on a just get out of my way type tour with the Cardell Jones and all that. I mean, that was an amazing, very impressive run. And they validated themselves. But, yeah, they lost to Virginia. I remember that. They lost to Virginia Tech at home, and then here they come, despite the injuries at quarterback as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was an incredible run. Ezekiel Elliott was a big part of that. And, that was a situation where, like when the Baylor-TCU thing happened, who was happier than the committee to have Ohio State just sitting right there for them to be able to justify, and like, we don't have to deal with these private schools from Texas? Great, here come the Buckeyes, and that's how it's going to probably be as long as it's a 14 field. You're going to get more of the blue bloods and more of the TV rating type teams. But yeah, it all, the one thing about the 14 field is it does create a ton of conversation, a ton of debate, because you have so few spots. And if you were to, Mike Leach is just a crazy person in the best kind of way. But, he advocated at one point for like a 64 team field like March Madness. And yeah, of course he did, because that's the only way he'll ever make the playoff. But that wouldn't, to me, be all that fun. But having a little bit more of an expanded field, so you didn't have to debate Ohio State, Oregon to this extent. Both teams would just be in, and rightfully so. Like, to me, as a fan, that probably would be more fun. But I know it doesn't make for as much, TV chatter and things like that.
From Big Blue Attack, thank you for the super chat. We appreciate it. I didn't see an attachment to that, but thank you very much. Also, Bazoo, Ohio State's still going to lose another game. So we don't have to worry, and that's a possibility. And Oregon will probably, there's a chance they lose another game. Who knows? Let's see, from AMAC Tony, and so this noise that the Big 12 needs to let Texas and Oklahoma out cheap so they will support the Big 12 for A5 status is a bunch of crap. Yes, no, stop.
Yeah,
they're a Power 5 school. They're a Power 5 conference. I see that. That's so far down the rapids. That's off into the Niagara Falls and boom, down in the water.
Well, this whole
of that discussion at all.
This whole idea that the Big 12 would not be an A5 school anymore should have died when they replaced Texas and Oklahoma with 4 schools. I mean, that's it. I mean, they didn't have to do anything other than that. I mean, it's not like them not being an A5 conference.
And there's discussion about whatever's a Chapter 2 included when that but the 4 they brought in, it's hard to argue against them as what they've done.
Well, the thing that was going to make them not an A5 conference was them not being a conference. Well, that's over.
Yeah.
They're a conference.
Yeah, that's the thing is they're an autonomous 5 conference as the Big 12. It doesn't matter that Oklahoma and Texas left. It would have if the conference fell apart and they basically became Conference USA, and you're trying to float above whether or not you even have enough teams to be considered a real conference. That was the great fear. That fear has been extinguished, put out, stomped on, water poured on it. It's done. There's no embers left. That's not going to happen. The Big 12 is going to survive, and as a result, so will their autonomy status.
Yeah, well, and there's just going to be things. I call it the Richard Gere and the gerbil thing, in that there's going to be people who, when you think of Richard Gere, think of that stupid story that didn't happen about him and the weird thing he did with the gerbil, as opposed to, the 20 great movies that he's done in his career, as opposed to, well, this is what we've always believed, so this is what we're going to think about A5 and the Big 12 and how conference realignment works. It's not reality. It's just their perception.
Well, we'll get to some of the other chat and text, by the way. We will take calls. The 5 o'clock hour is wide open until Paul's Top 5 at the end of the show. We have guests that will highlight Oregon here in a moment, then also Virginia with Bronco Mendenhall headed back to play against Brigham Young, our coach, Max Olson, Mickey Spagnola on the Cowboys at 4:30. Craig's off the radar at 4:45. We will take Paul's Top 5 at the end of the show. We'll take calls throughout the 5 o'clock hour. We will get to as many as we can, answer as many as we can, and digest and chew on as many as we can. The 360, I just sent that back to you as well. One of the other things about the expanded college football playoff, don't think they knew what they were doing. Sankey, et cetera. Let's get as many, just get more in. Now you could have 4 SEC teams or 3 Big Ten teams or 2 or 3 from other conferences as well. But for us to get this passed, we got to throw out like this, whatever you want to call it, to the group of 5. Because otherwise everyone would lose their mind. That may be the way you're going down the road anyway at some point if they end up going to 4 super conferences or whatever it might be. But, yeah, that's the group of 5 that we know what's going on there.
I think everything that's been done now is done to ward off the super conferences by the teams that wouldn't be in it. I mean, I think that's what's going on now. And we'll see if it works, but,
You mean all the other conferences?
Like the Big 12 expansion, these conferences getting together, the 12-team playoff, all that I think is done to ward off the four super conference thing. Okay. I think that's what's being done. Now, whether that works or not, ultimately it may be what the powers that be decide, which again will be done because of money and no other reason, not because of the fans. But if that ever happens, that's why. But I think what's going on now is what is the maybe last line of defense before that happens.
Yeah, it could change in the next 6 months. It could change quite a bit. It's like somebody just put up a note about Boise State would hate to wait another 5 or 10 years to be a part of a Power 5. You might not have to wait 5 or 10 months, depending on what happens with the Big 12 in Chapter 2. Now, you're not going in right away, but that is the plan, it appears. And then also, next thing you know, by the summer of 23 or 24 for Chapter 2 in the Big 12, you are a part of a Power 5 conference. From Zach, Big 12 will make more money than the ACC and the Pac-12. Of course, they are a Power 5 conference. They are now, and they will be. They've made the moves to protect that, and anyone other than saying that is just yapping, and that's fine too.
Yeah, I just think that there's probably a lot of confusion over what that means, like what P5 and Autonomy 5 and all that meant anyways. Like Power 5 is more of a media term, quite frankly. There's not really a power. It's you have the ability to be involved in rules changes and, have your say in that. It's not like you're voted in and voted off like Survivor type of a thing. So the Big 12, they were dangling with, flirting with maybe not being considered an autonomous 5 conference. But again, they patched up the hole in the side of the ship with 4 new teams and they're fine now. They're going to be, as same part of those conversations that when they were with OU and Texas. It'd be the same thing without OU and Texas, barring this, some unforeseen collapse. But obviously, they're moving in the opposite direction of that right now.
Absolutely. Biscuits and Gravy has been a part of the chat room today, headed back from New Orleans. Been there for a long time. That would be a challenge to go down and live that for a 5, 6. It's like a Super Bowl week. We've been down there before for the Sugar Bowl.
New Orleans
that's a challenge for the old diet right there.
New Orleans is a 3-day city, like Vegas.
Vegas, yeah.
I mean, it should be. And now we've obviously twice stayed there for a week, and of the three of us, I think I suffered the most. But still, I know that it's not a week-long city.
No.
Double O'Neill on the chat room. Boise State, Double O'Neill. I love your fan passion. Boise State has a better football program than any of the future or current Big 12 teams. Fact. Only Oklahoma even comes close to the fact.
Only comes close. Okay, now I know you're joking.
We have been really we've taken Boise State and we've loved them, right? We love their AD and Jeremiah Dickey. We've all in on that when that comes. Don't be that person. But again, as far as history, I don't know. Maybe he's not. Also from JW,
it's just a dumb message because it's clearly not true. So whatever.
Let's see here. Craig, it's even better than a patch. I think that the new conference is arguably stronger than Big 12, and at the same time, Tony's saying ultimately have a better culture.
Well, I think that's
for sure.
That's going to be evident because you won't. I don't think you'll have what Texas would pit people against each other by getting them to support them. Texas would be like, look, this is what we're going to say. You don't want us to make us mad. And be like, oh, all right, well, so then you put somebody out on an island on a big point, whether it was Nebraska on their partial qualifiers or A&M on a certain issue. From the very beginning, Texas was very good about putting somebody out on an island when they might have been right. But
you know what would be really nice and a nice breath of fresh air is that when they're not in the conference, they won't, there won't be this diminishing of other teams' accomplishments. Like when anytime someone not named Oklahoma or Texas at the top of the Oklahoma and Texas are down. It doesn't count. Texas isn't as good. It doesn't count. That Baylor Big 12 title or that TCU run or Iowa doesn't count. We're not both good at the same time, so it's not the real Big 12.
Yep.
Won't miss that at all. And, one party's really been making that argument for close to a decade now, really. But, that air of superiority, that comes with a lot of certain types of fans from all fan bases, really. But particularly talking about, those two schools, that whole looking down thing of just we're better than you and you're not, in our party and all this and we're getting rid of you peasants, we'll buy. Buy, it's going to be so much nicer here.
Go live in your mansion.
When you're gone. And I know the money won't be as good, but guess what? They'll still pay the bills. The lights will stay on. They'll still be able to go out for nice meals and buy good Christmas presents. So it's not like they're going onto the sidewalk and just going to be destitute. They will be fine. They may not make as much money, but guess what? They'll make enough.
By the way,
I
agree. You couldn't have said it better. Area code 321 earlier today, who was watching one of our replay segments on YouTube. I mentioned Jeff Lebby. We mentioned him as possible, and you had your top 5 from now Ole Miss. He was at Florida Atlantic initially after Baylor, right? And then he went to UCF.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
I think the first year, weren't he and Randy Clements in a small school in not even.
It was an NAIA school. That's the one, not Florida. Yeah, they were at an NAIA school.
Kendall was at FAU.
Yeah, and Kendall was at Florida Atlantic. And then, or was it in one of the two? And then, but Lebby was at UCF, and in fact was a part of their coaching search that they hired Gus Malzahn.
Yeah, I see a lot of Red Raider, feedback on Jeff Lebby. It seems like he's definitely somebody of interest for at least the fan base, and I would think the administration probably as well. There's going to be a Browse factor to their coaching search, bottom line, because either the media is going to keep pushing this art thing where they try to paint a sad group of minority voices in the Tech fan base who are pulling for art or something. They're going to make that like the whole Red Raider fan base. Just look through those tricks that the media does sometimes because they want Art Briles in the headlines because guess what? It's going to get people stirred up like the college football playoff show and get them talking. I don't really put a lot of stock into Briles being a big candidate, but his son and son-in-law, yeah, I could see that. I could see that being definitely under consideration for the Red Raiders. And you know what? They've got a good pool of candidates, like we said a couple of days ago. That's the thing you can look forward to is you get a Jeff Traylor or you get a Jeff Lebby or Sonny Dykes. I think you're going to probably be happy with that. So they've got a great opportunity here. They just can't make another Matt Wells hire, that's for sure.
From Carl Adams, $5 super chat, the Big 12 expanding to 16, having two divisions that rarely play each other would benefit the conference in terms of rankings. Thoughts? I mean, we got to get to a guess because he has to do it early.
No, but maybe so. Maybe it would, but because then you would avoid certain teams if it kind of like the SEC does right now.
Yes,
it would benefit in terms of rankings, but does it benefit in terms of fan enjoyment?
There's still going to be a conference championship game, so somebody might eventually play somebody that may not be on the actual conference schedule during some of those years.
But I think you just said it with the number of teams in the SEC comparison. What's the difference?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well,
what's the difference? I mean, why can't their teams, lose a game and only drop 2 spots and remain in the top 25 while the other one jumps up 5, and so that you just create this bubble where nobody ever really falls off, and when they do, somebody immediately replaces them. I mean, there's enough teams in the Big 12 to be able to do that. They don't have that kind of respect, though, so it won't work that way. But yeah, I think that it will allow for that, because if a UCF, for example, is unbeaten on the Eastern Division or whatever, and they get to avoid Oklahoma State, who's like top 10 until the championship game, then yeah, that could help out. It's immensely in the rankings where you have an extra top 10 team that you wouldn't normally have potentially.
All right, there's a lot more. We can't even get to all the chats, the text. We'll get to some of those as well. Coming up next, 2 or 3 segments in a row on college football, including we focus in on Oregon, speaking of then, and then Virginia, and maybe even a note or two about Old Dominion changing conferences, and then Max Olson on national college football discussion that could include even the Big 12 or your conference. Sikkim, 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Jay Arrett was in the radio business for a long time. He's now the owner of Pickup Outfitters at 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco. He met someone who owned the business back in the late 80s. He was in advertising, and Jay wanted to know if they wanted to be a sponsor of various parts of the radio show that he was working for. They met, and who knows, later on, well, eventually he bought that company that he helped market for many, many years. Pickup Outfitters is a place that can help what you need when it comes to adding accessories to your pickup truck, your SUV, or even your car. Even minivans. Pickup Outfitters right now. If you want a bed liner, they have whatever bed liner you want. It covers the entire inside of your bed, keeps things from bouncing around and maybe getting the inside of your bed of your pickup truck scratched up, dented, and you may not care. Well, then a liner can still help things bouncing around anyway. Also, they have the plastic drop-in, or you have the spray-in. The Armadillo spray-in liner that comes with Pickup Outfitters' famous lifetime warranty. If you buy and get something installed at Pickup Outfitters, it comes with a lifetime installation warranty, and they'll help you with other assistance as well. At Pickup Outfitters, online, createacommotion.com.
The beautiful, rugged, elegant third-row seat Jeep Grand Cherokee L is in stock at Allen Samuels. This prestigious Jeep heritage is obvious in the Grand Cherokee L. First responders, we're offering an extra $500 cash for you. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or Limited has total values of $3,500 or 0% for 72 months going on now. Jeep Adventure Days at Allen Samuels, located at 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey guys, sports betting season is in full force with football season entrenched and the NBA and NHL underway and the Major League Baseball playoffs. You need a sports book with integrity and longevity like BetUS.com. BetUS has been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customer base. That's BetUS.com, and they have loads of bonuses like ours at BetUS.com. 125% bonus on promo code SICKEM125 or a a 200% bonus if you use crypto on promo code SICK'EM200. BetUS, known as America's favorite sportsbook. NFL, college football, MLB, UFC, PGA golf, they've got it all at BetUS.com. So go to BetUS.com today and use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. That's BetUS.com, promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
James Crepea covers Oregon. Oregonian. Fox Sports Eugene has a talk show there. Also now joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports, which he's done before. James, we discussed a little bit early on today. Obviously, next week they start having the college football rankings, the playoff rankings, whatever. I don't pay attention to that, but it's always good fodder. Is that even a discussion right now with the angst of Ohio State being ranked ahead of a team that beat them straight up in Oregon?
I think it is among fans. I think it is among radio listeners sometimes. I mean, I think there's the disconnect between, I'll wear my primary hat here, reporters and the stuff that we write about and really kind of sink our teeth into at times sometimes. And sometimes just the minutia that fans actually delve into as much. Because for us, I mean, I'll just speak as a reporter here, or even as a radio show host, quite frankly, to me, it's always like, all right, what's the second sentence of the rankings conversation exactly? Like, all right, someone's ahead of somebody else. Well, it can change in a week. The season still has 5, 6, 8, 10 more weeks, depending on what time of the season we're talking about. So I'm with you. Like, to me, all right, the initial ranking, I don't put any stock into it per se, other than that it is the first sort of initial assessment of where the committee feels teams are. And then you usually see the AP poll actually correspond more to what the committee thinks coming thereafter. Other than that, obviously, we know that there's a whole lot of games to play. Mm-hmm. Do I think it makes a lot of sense, though, that for the human polls, whether we're talking the coaches poll or the AP poll, for Ohio State to be ahead of Oregon? Not right now, no. No, I don't. And you could say, wow, what are you talking about? Ohio State's been throttling its opponents. Yeah, the worst opponents in the Big Ten East. Yes. Yes, Ohio State has been a dominant team against the absolute worst teams in its division here. Absolutely right. And Oregon has been very inconsistent, including against a absolutely atrocious Arizona team that is the worst team not only in the Pac-12, probably the worst team in the Power 5, and one of the worst in all of college football. Absolutely. Well, there might be a degree of context to that because Oregon was without a pretty significant number of its really important players on defense amid some of the struggles that was happening in the first half of the season. Now, look, Saturday is an example where Ohio State has a better opponent. I don't think Penn State is phenomenal, but better ranked, at least, opponent on Saturday. And Oregon gets a cupcake in Colorado, who's struggling mightily. If the Ducks go out and dominate a bad Colorado team on national television and Ohio State plays a closer game against Penn State, I think you start to see things equal out a little bit, relatively speaking. I also think you see that Ohio State's strength of schedule will improve dramatically just by playing Penn State on Saturday.
James, is this Oregon team a team that can dominate people, though? Even though they're a good team, is it necessarily, do they have that club in their bag because of maybe the way that they play?
Well, can they dominate the teams on their schedule that they have left is really the question that matters. Can they dominate those teams? Certainly with Saturday and Colorado, I'd say the answer is yes. They can. They most definitely can. Oregon's problem has been, since the Ohio State game, beyond injuries, yes. And every team could say, well, every team's got injuries. Listen, outside of LSU, and I'm forgetting one or two others who've had really enormous lists of injuries, but LSU really got crushed in particular. Oregon's injury list is vast, and it includes some of its most important players. Arizona has had the quarterback position in particular, but not necessarily everywhere else. Well, they have had a tendency to play down to their competition since the Ohio State game, when they also happen to be without Kayvon Thibodeau, who for the past 2 weeks has put on a showcase and pass rush and showing that, oh yeah, by the way, he is the best defensive player in the sport, and by most people's estimation, a virtual lock to be the number one pick in the NFL draft. Well, when you don't have that guy on the field, guys, and you didn't have him against Ohio State either, but you don't have him on the field, and now you can say, well, you don't need that guy to beat a FCS team or a bad Arizona team. Well, they did beat Arizona and pull away by 22 points. It was window dressing at the end, but they won by 22 points. And they beat that crappy FCS team by 41. A little bit of window dressing late, too, but the final score is the final score. If we're talking about playoff and, you know, how the committee views those things and data points, the end result is there. If we want to go back to the original playoff conversation of 2014, and this is starting to feel the same way, quite frankly, for Oregon, and it was Florida State then, and we were talking about game control, a totally made-up metric.
Yep.
But that's what we're talking about, right? Can they dominate? Can they just whack somebody from the start and have a 4-possession lead for 35 minutes? Well, they can definitely do that against Colorado because Colorado doesn't have a hat to hang anything on, let alone the peg to do it with either. I mean, they, especially if they're without Nate Lamb, and they just don't have very much to their credit right now. After that, look, I'm never going to look past anybody on anyone's schedule. Washington's a rival. Obviously, they're having a terrible season for them, particularly if they go out and lose at Stanford on Saturday. It's not very good by way of what the record will look like going into that game. But it's a rivalry game. It's in Seattle. Tough environment. We'll see. Washington State just fired its coach, but yet they're a 4-4 team. They play Arizona State on Saturday. I don't know what exactly they'll look like by the time they come into Olson, but not a terrific team, certainly. And the final two games are the two better teams left on their schedule. So if Oregon were to dominate a trip to Utah, or dominate an Oregon State team, who I actually think is one of the most underrated teams in all of college football this season. The fact that they're not even ranked is mind-blowing to me. I cannot fathom that another 5-2 team who's 3-1 in their league and tied for the division lead, having just beaten the other division leader. I can't fathom that if that was the case in any other league in the country, that team would be unranked. But here we are in the Pac-12, where Oregon State is routinely on the Pac-12 network. Nobody gets to watch them, and nobody gets to see that they have the best rushing attack in the league. But if Oregon were to dominate them and finish off the regular season at 11-1, there is live a bullet in the conversation of the playoff as it gets. But can they do it? They have the capability defensively now at full health to be really dominant on that side.
I'm with you on Oregon State. I'm a big B.J. Baylor fan, being he's from Texas, keeping track of him. He's had a really nice year. I know there's been a lot of talk, James, about Anthony Brown in the quarterback position. What have been your thoughts on his performance so far?
On the whole, quite honestly, he's kind of basically performed like I thought he would, insofar as I was never blown away by his statistics at Boston College. I wasn't. Look, he suffered 2 different ACL tears, so I don't use that as a knock on him in any way, shape, or form. Credit to his resiliency, credit to his ability to come back from multiple significant knee injuries and still be a viable dual threat college quarterback. But his statistics at Boston College, when I looked at them, I mean, wasn't exactly the most accurate of passers, and I know they didn't have a lot of talent around him, but that league doesn't exactly have a lot of very good defenses outside of Clemson in those years and Pittsburgh here or there. But by the by, that the ACC is pretty bad, and he didn't have the greatest numbers while he was there. So I didn't think he was going to be lighting up the world while he was out here. And at times, he has done well in the fourth quarters of games. He has been all right until the late interceptions last week. Those were not very good throws, but taking those 2 throws aside, he had been nothing short of spectacular in the first half of the season in the fourth quarter. His problem was that the third quarter was the complete polar opposite. It was that the third quarter, he was one of the worst quarterbacks in the Power 5. And the fourth quarter, he was one of, if not the best quarterback in all of college football in the fourth quarter. You're going, all right, so which quarterback are you getting here? And that's really his story so far this season. He's been a mark of inconsistency in his decision-making, in his throws and accuracy. Now, look, having said that, what does it mean going forward? Well, look, this happens with rookie quarterbacks in the NFL, with first-round quarterbacks in the NFL. Well, that's higher caliber competition. Yeah, but those guys already went through college football. Those guys already played against probably some pretty good teams, like Trevor Lawrence played against how many good defenses, loaded defenses, when he was at Clemson, whether it was in playoffs against Ohio State or Alabama or you name it. He faced plenty of really good teams with lots of NFL caliber players while he was in college. Well, the game got harder for him, and he has to work with other receivers for the first time, whatever. Did he still have camp? Did he still have an off-season? Yeah, but he learned it at that level. Well, Anthony Brown at the college level here, still relatively speaking, new to Oregon. Yeah, he was here last year, but last year was quite screwy, as we all remember. Well, he's still developing chemistry with this receiver group. It's getting better. Last week was his best in that regard against a very bad UCLA pass defense, and they took advantage of it. That was a positive. His decision-making on the ground was a positive. Like I say, if not for the 2 late interceptions, one was entirely on him. The other was just it was a bad play from start to finish. It was a bad decision to throw. It was to pass in the first place rather than the run. By way of play call, bad strategy, bad play selection, bad throw, bad everything. It was just plain bad. But what does it mean for them going forward? It means they have an inconsistent quarterback who, the silver lining for Oregon fans, where a significant number of them want a quarterback change, but they're not going to be getting it this season, is he's not putting the ball in jeopardy. And, for everybody who wants to criticize his accuracy or say that a freshman would be performing better, and I don't think they're right anyway, he's not putting the ball in jeopardy. If they had lost the game at Stanford because of everything that he did, that'd be one thing. He helped lead a comeback in that game where all right, yeah, he also had his one interception earlier on in the season, came in that game. In of itself, though, they didn't necessarily lose only because of him. There were issues all over the place that day. And that was a day where Joe Moorhead was rushed to the hospital, where the day before their, terrific starting nickel corner went down with a season-ending injury, where their running back went down with a season-ending injury during the game. A lot of things went. Oh, and then by the way, during the 2-minute drive at the end, some very questionable penalty calls that took place that led to overtime. So a lot of things happened in that game. Bottom line, they're a top 10 team, and they've got a level of inconsistency at quarterback. But the last, not just this past week, even going back the week before, frankly, decision making was starting to get a little bit better. But hey, every fan base, especially fan bases who are hoping for playoff teams, everybody wants their quarterback to be, the best quarterback in the country. And basically, the Oregon fan base feels very much, I think, like the Oklahoma fan base regarding their quarterback at times.
James Crepea is our guest from the Oregonian. We have time for one more question. Craig?
Yeah, James, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, because it is coaching carousel season, and you know that Mario Cristobal's name gets thrown around with these searches coming up. Your thoughts just on that, his place at Oregon, and the fact that there will be some teams, obviously, that have interest in him, but just your thoughts as we start to get in the heat of coaching carousel season.
Oh, for sure. And look, I'm by no means his spokesman or his agent in any stretch of the imagination. But Mario signed a new deal a year ago. I have no doubt in any way, shape, or form that when a coach has, success, other people come calling. That's the business. So whether we're talking about SC or LSU or a school to be named later, you're going to have to pony up a boatload of money in the first place to do whatever firings you're going to do, which obviously SC and LSU have already done. But in order to be then just buying out Mario of his current spot, the cost of doing business is $9 million. That's just to start the conversation. Then he's already making in the mid-4s by way of base salary, and then there are bonuses whereby that goes up quite significantly in a hurry for 9 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Winning a division, winning the league, making the playoffs. If they were to make the playoff this year, you can totally forget it. He ain't going. No coach in the playoff is going to leave their situation. I'm not even sure Luke Fickell will leave the situation. How can you leave a team that could be competing for a national championship? That just is totally antithetical to me. But for Mario Cristobal specifically, his salary could go well north of $5.5, closer to $6 million if they were to make the playoff. Well, it's $9 million to buy him out. He's going to be at over $6 to begin with. I'm not telling you that LSU or somebody else that can't afford some of those figures, but you start to get into that and coordinators and consider the buyouts that have already been paid in some of these places. And, I realize SEC's got crazy money, but sooner or later, there are some limits in the world, believe it or not. And to say also to the fact that I'm not telling you that he's actually available beyond the fact of the money. I think he likes it here a whole hell of a lot. He's recruited, and he and his staff have recruited consistent top 10 classes each year, and they have another one in the works where they're really best situated to compete for the playoff and national championships the next 3 years. This year, hey, they're back in the top 10. They could make it this year. But frankly, they're kind of ahead of schedule. It's really the next 3 years. And they open the season next year with Georgia. And that could be a rematch of a potential playoff matchup this year. Mm-hmm. So why, basically, why do you got to leave? If your intention is to compete for and play for championships, he's got a chance to do it now. He's got a chance to do it each of the next couple of years here with the way this roster is composed. This team is 60, 70% freshmen and sophomores. They're built for the long haul. They're not, this isn't a roster where it's like, oh, well, like that LSU team a couple of years ago when they won the championship. Well, they got 20-some-odd guys go to the draft. They're not going to have that, not even near that number, not even close to that. So, like I say, I never say never in this business. We've all seen crazy things. But with the way this team is constructed and contracts and everything else, I'm personally just not seeing it. But we've all seen crazy things happen, certainly.
James, great stuff. Great insight throughout the entire part of what's going on with Oregon, from who they've beaten, who they play, who they have left, what they've been dealing with, including the Mario Cristobal being a part of names a name that will be part of any of the coaching searches of the big boy schools, and he's at one. We know how much money that Oregon has and the success they're having as well. We're going to hear from David Teel here in a moment. Richmond Times-Dispatch. Max Olson will join us a little bit after the 4 o'clock hour. I do have, at some point, and it probably would be around 4:20, just slightly an update on the Big 12 and Chapter 2 when it comes to Memphis. I'm not trying to tease you, but then again I am, because we have guests lined up and we'll have some information that might be more positive than sometimes, and I'm not saying it's been negative, but positive involving what might be happening with Memphis. We're now joined by David Teel, again, Richmond Times-Dispatch on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. So, David, thank you very much for your time. What's the feeling with Bronco Mendenhall headed to Brigham Young, his former place in Virginia, coming off a nice win?
Well, a little trepidation on Mendenhall's part, simply because this is a game he did not want to play. It was scheduled before he accepted the UVA job 6 years ago, but he has such an affinity for and history with BYU. His dad played there. His brother played there. He worked there for 13 years, and he is very devout in his Mormon faith. And he spoke eloquently this week about how the school is just a part of his fabric, and it just makes him a little uncomfortable to compete against the Cougars.
I mean, this is they've got 2 non-con games with Notre Dame coming up in the middle of this, and they're like pretty much half the conferences, David, right in the heat of the ACC race. Is this one also maybe one you don't want to play just to lose momentum, in that if you took an L in Provo going forward, having to play Notre Dame next week, and then you still have Pitt and Virginia Tech down the line?
Yeah, it's so peculiar, isn't it? This is the first time since 2002 that a pair of Virginia's final 4 games will be non-conference contests. It's just such an odd time to be playing not 1, but 2 consecutive non-league games. And, oh, by the way, both of those opponents are ranked, which makes it even more challenging. And then you mentioned a 3rd consecutive ranked opponent on the horizon, with Pitt on the road, and then closing with your state rival in Virginia Tech. It is an arduous path, to say the least, here in the final 4 games for the Cavaliers, who have won their last 4.
David, talk to us about Dontavion Wicks and the type of season he's having. I mean, nearly 1,000 yards at this point, closing in on 10 touchdowns as well. Just what's it been like to see the type of run that he's been having these last few games?
Absolutely exceptional, especially when you consider, guys, that he came off a year in which he was hurt and was unable to play, and then his place last season was taken by Lavelle Davis, the true freshman, who had a breakout year. And then he tears an ACL during preseason camp and can't go. And you wondered, okay, who's going to be the deep threat? And here comes Dontavion Wicks back again, averaging nearly, 22, 23 yards a catch. He really high points the ball well, did so in the end zone Saturday against Georgia Tech. He's one of the best couple 3 receivers in the Atlantic Coast Conference this season, clearly.
Let me ask you about Old Dominion. I know it's not right there, but it is basically in your backyard. What does that mean for them with the Sun Belt Conference and getting into a new conference coming up soon?
Well, it's an impeccably timed question, because I was on Old Dominion's campus this morning when they had essentially a news conference / pep rally to confirm what we all knew, that the Monarchs will be joining the Sun Belt. And guys, this is huge for Old Dominion. Conference USA, no offense, is a sinking ship. It was never a great fit for Old Dominion geographically from the start. And now, once JMU and Marshall are finalized next week, you're looking at a Sun Belt East that will be very regionalized. You'll have Old Dominion, James Madison, Marshall, Coastal Carolina, the 2 Georgia schools, Appalachian State. They'll be busing to 3 of their 6 division rivals. They really like that from a cost-cutting perspective, from athlete welfare, just fewer missed classes, less time on the road, and just rivalries that their fans are going to be more comfortable with and more accustomed to.
All right. Anything else, guys? Hey, Coastal Carolina has also had a flat tire. Again, everyone's got a chance to lose the game. They bounced back. There was a lot of hope, and obviously what they're doing with their coach there, we've had him on, Jamie Chadwell. Is that someone that they're worried about possibly because of the success, maybe leaving with some of the changes we've already seen with 5 coaches being fired already this season?
Well, I think it's certainly possible. He's going to be on those lists with these inevitable job openings that come up. I mean, one possibility, a job could come open here in the Commonwealth. Justin Fuente in Virginia Tech. What's going to transpire there? The Hokies have lost their last 3 heading into Saturday's game at Georgia Tech, and all of a sudden they're below 500. So who knows how that plays out? Surely Jamie Chadwell is going to get some looks.
Thank you very much, David. David Teel on many things. Virginia, Bronco Mendenhall playing at Brigham Young, and also Coastal Carolina. What that means to Old Dominion. There's another program because of the changes. It all started because of late July, who's going to be in a better spot than they are right now. And that's good news. They're thrilled about it.
Yeah, and I'm very curious to see that Virginia-BYU game. Virginia's got a very exciting offense, and asked about Dontavion Wicks, but, I mean, Brennan Armstrong, their quarterback, is putting up just massive numbers.
He's leading the country in passing.
Yeah, he's above a Texas guy in Zappi over there at Western Kentucky, who's putting up a lot of big numbers as well. But, yeah, Armstrong leads the country there, and he's thrown a few picks, but he's got 20-plus touchdowns. You know, he's going to have 4,000 passing yards. I mean, he's tearing it up, and they've got some good weapons there. So that's going to be a fun game because Virginia can move it down and score and big play, and we saw Baylor and BYU. So kind of after watching that, and then the Bronco Mendenhall factor, that just makes for an interesting game. Makes for an interesting game for the Cougs and Cavaliers coming up, and then Virginia obviously has a little stretch after that will be a big determinating factor in how rosy things are by the end of the year.
Pretty quiet, 6-2, lost to Carolina. Got in a shootout, and then also lost to Wake Forest, and they're undefeated. Of course, North Carolina was ranked very high to start the year. When we come back, Max Olson, national writer, college football writer for theathletic.com. Marco's Pizza, 4 locations in the Waco area, but also over 1,000 locations around the country. For those of you who are a part of the chat room or listening to us online or watching what we do on YouTube as well, and Sikkim 365 Radio. Unlimited large 2 toppings right now, carry out only, $8.99 each. You can order that right now, $3 off. The large specialty pizzas, unlimited, medium 1-topping pizzas, $6.99 each, and they have the crowd pleasers. Cater your party or any kind of gathering with Marco's Pizza, including a pizza, soft drinks, salad, sandwiches, and even much more. Marco's Pizza has, of course, open for contact-free delivery and carry-out, curbside pickup available at select locations. 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and the new location in Robinson with owner Bob Mock at marcos.com. Pizza lovers get it.
At long last, it's time for some college football. Bird Collision Ford proudly supports the Baylor Bears as they take the field this season. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. We have some great vehicles available this season as well, so come check out our winning lineup of new Fords. Let's cheer the Bears on to victory and celebrate by buying a new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sic 'em Bears.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next.
In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads, crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
A sagging rear end. It's ugly, it's embarrassing, and it's a sign you haven't been taking care of things. Hey, it's Jay from Pickup Outfitters, and we know you've seen it. A truck pulling an RV, a boat, or a big trailer, and the back end of the truck is lower than the front. In the industry, we call it a floppy jalopy, a scooty booty, or most commonly, badonkadonk down. It's not just an eyesore. When a truck's rear end is sagging, it can be dangerous because it affects the handling of the truck and can make driving unsafe. But there is a fix to this unsafe and unsightly condition. Take your truck to Pickup Outfitters for a little rear end suspension upgrade like Super Springs, Sumo Springs, or even an airbag suspension kit. Your truck will be safer, handle better, and most importantly, it will look better. People will start noticing the improvement to your rear end right away. And isn't that what it's all about? Get your rear suspension upgrade from the pros at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or check us out on the web at createacommotion.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Max Olson of The Athletic. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Taking trouble and set. Terrell Bernard, the captain.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
It's 4 o'clock hour. Max Olson, theathletic.com, writes college football, and obviously in the meat of what's going on with the game itself, joins us every Thursday around 4 o'clock on Sikkim 365 Radio and also 365 Sports. Max, what are you writing? What did you write about this week that created a stir?
Created a stir? I mean, I didn't fire Matt Wills. What are you talking about?
So you think that you've heard Jeff Traylor. There's names we've heard out there. I mean, do you have any clue what's going on with Tech?
I think that early on in the process, that clearly is going to take 5 weeks, if not more. I think that the starting point here on the search with Texas Tech is kind of clear. I'm curious to see if there will be some maybe surprise candidates that emerge here, because there is a lot of time for twists and turns. But certainly there's some significant interest and contact with Sonny Dykes and Jeff Traylor, and there are also some very important people at Texas Tech that want Art Briles to be considered, and so we will see if that goes somewhere, or if the significant backlash that would come with that prevents it from ever getting serious.
What if Kirby Hocutt came into him and said, "I cannot do Art Briles, but I will"? How about a Jeff Lebby?
Certainly hiring Kendall Briles or Jeff Lebby still comes with some baggage there, and it's a good question, because I do think Jeff Lebby and what they've done at Ole Miss, and I think he will be a guy that's going to have some options this offseason, and I'm curious to see kind of what those look like. I think that I think when you look at the landscape here and you say Art Briles is 65 years old, you could bring in that type of offense, but go younger with one of those guys. I think they're all kind of tied together here, though. I mean, I think that it's really a question of can you get enough people on board with this, and even can you get the fan base on board with it? And I think that's what Kirby Hocutt kind of addressed on Monday, is that they need a head coach hire here that really unifies the fan base and is not divisive.
Max, with the games this week in the Big 12, I mean, it's kind of separated itself into tiers now. You got Baylor and Texas coming up in Waco. I think it's a game that's kind of make or break for UT in terms of, hovering right there around 500. And Baylor's obviously in the thick of the Big 12 race right now. Your thoughts on Longhorns and Bears coming up in Waco on Saturday?
Yeah, certainly we're getting down to it now in terms of games that, just like with Iowa State, Oklahoma State last week, games that have, real implications here for this Big 12 title race. And I think that's, it's a huge one for both teams. And, Texas is still kind of hard to put your finger on a little bit, because you see the upside there in the way that, especially like the first half against Oklahoma, you've seen at their best, man, they can potentially beat anybody in the Big 12 when it's clicking. But can they be 4 quarters consistent? I mean, that's certainly not been the case with their last few, and now they've had an idle week to work through that. So I'm curious to see how they show up against the Baylor team that I think has been, to their credit, really, really steady, really pretty reliable from week to week in terms of what they're capable of doing, and I expect this to be a really great coaching chess match.
We mentioned this yesterday. There 5 coaches have already been fired, and not even the November. Do you feel like, and we've kind of discussed this on this show, that the national signing period now in December is going to make that something more normal, or is this the exception?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I think we probably tend to fret a little bit too much about that recruiting class that's impacted during a coaching change, because it feels like one of those things where you need to go make a hire and get your momentum back and all that kind of stuff. But those transition classes are usually pretty tough. Usually are going to have a lot of attrition, and so I don't know that you make a firing because of recruiting. And even LSU right now, I'm sure, and USC, everyone's trying to pick apart their commitment lists and stuff like that. So. That doesn't mean that they're going to rush and make a hire. It is interesting people are doing this a little bit earlier. I think in the Texas Tech example too, the thing that bothers you a little bit is, man, and we've seen this before. You remember Tom Herman's last year at Houston. It sucks for these kids at SMU and UTSA that are having awesome seasons, and you hope it isn't that kind of distraction for the whole month of November here that causes them to lose a game, because they're having really special seasons, and it's not fair to the coaches and players and anybody there that all this speculation is going to happen now for the next 5-6 weeks.
What do you make of James Franklin changing agents?
I mean, I think James Franklin's probably changing jobs too. I mean, I don't he can, and look, he's in a tough spot. There's nothing you can really say that sort of pleases your fan base right now, because there are a lot of moving parts to this stuff, and he's a guy that, maybe he could get either USC or LSU. I mean, depending on how this stuff plays out. But I think Franklin to USC has seemed kind of kind of obvious here, from the moment that Helton was fired, and we'll see if others want to go make a run there. But yeah, I would be shocked if Penn State doesn't open up this offseason, and that's a hell of a job too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about the carousel, right? Is one job falls, another one opens up, and it just keeps on. It's like conference realignment in a way. But sticking with the Big Ten, Max, big battle between Michigan and Michigan State coming up this weekend. Something's got to give. 2 top 10 teams coming up on Fox. Your thoughts on Wolverines and Spartans?
Yeah, two teams that have been impressive up to this point in terms of the way they've managed to win some close games there and stay undefeated. And certainly when it's clicking right, those are 2 teams that can really run the ball and that are playing pretty decent defense this year. And the quarterbacks are 2 guys that are kind of still pretty relatively young and unproven. So I'm interested to see how they show up in this one. I think Michigan, you would think, just from like a recruiting standpoint, is the more talented team and probably has a little bit of an edge in this one. But man, really, I really would not have expected Mel Tucker would have Michigan State at this point in year 2. So maybe that just speaks to what a great coach and staff they've got there. I don't know who's going to win it, but certainly this is a defining weekend for probably the best division in college football between that and Ohio State, Penn State. So pretty excited to see how that goes, plays out.
I'm curious, do you watch the weekly college football playoff show on whenever they do it?
You mean like the one starting next week?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
You do? What do you is that? Well, you have to. You got to write stories about it. I've stopped watching it. We've all 3 very rarely do we watch much of it at all. But what do you think we're going to see in this first week?
Certainly we're heading towards that time when it's time to set all the narratives and arguments and debates and all that kind of stuff. The thing that I don't know if we talked about this last week or not, but the thing that they always say about these committees and about the playoff process is that every week they tear up the rankings and start over and redo it all, right? And that week to week consistency isn't really a thing in this, and certainly we've seen some poor examples of that over the years, right? But I would think if that's really how this thing works, there's no harm in putting Cincinnati at number 2. It doesn't mean they have to keep them at number 2 the rest of the way, but I would hope that I think the big thing we all want to see is just where do they put Cincinnati and what kind of respect do they put on them for being undefeated, for being on their way to a conference championship and having a couple Power 5 wins, playing about as tough of a schedule as they could have this year and playing well, not dominant at times, but playing really well. I think where Cincinnati ends up here is the thing I'm most fascinated to see.
All right.
Max, what were your thoughts on the overtime, Illinois and Penn State, the new format? How did that go over with you?
I thought it was fun to watch just as a viewer. The drama of it was awesome. I can certainly sympathize that as a Penn State fan, that would be a pretty horrifying way to have your season get ruined. I mean, that is, but you also got lots and lots and lots of chances there to go score. And I don't know if the new model's that bad. I mean, you got to remember this is only going to happen in like 1% of games that he would even, go to multiple overtimes. But, man, I think coaches probably got to figure out a better way to find a way to score some points in those situations, because it's so tough when you're at the 3-yard line there and you got 22 bodies crammed into that small of a space. Like, the play calling it was not very good in that one, and I'm sure it has led to a lot of coaches this week trying to figure out, geez, if we have to play 9 overtimes, what the heck do we call?
Yeah, no doubt about that. And Max, final thing for you, we were talking earlier because the playoff show is coming up and we're starting to get in that routine. But who are your top 4 teams as we sit here right now?
Oh, come on, you can't put me on the spot like that. I mean, we did. I think a week ago we did revise. What we thought our mid-season, at the mid-season point here, kind of revised what we thought the Final Four would be at the end. And, for me, I kind of ended up talking myself into this idea that Georgia's going to win out, but then lose to Alabama in the SEC title game. I kind of think it's possible that that both of them get in there. And I think if that's the case, and I don't know if this is what I think will happen or what I'm rooting for, to happen, but I think the other two teams in that 4 would be Ohio State and Cincinnati. I think at this point, I'm just not, we'll see on Oklahoma, but it's just hard to sit here and feel very, very good that Oklahoma is going to win out. And, maybe this is one of those years where, we're due for an upset in the Big 12 title game. It hasn't happened yet. We've come close a couple times here, but it hasn't happened yet since this title game came back. And so maybe you have a OU losing in that game and that knocks them out of the field. But right now it's hard for me to sit here and say Oklahoma, yeah, they're still undefeated, and you don't want to say it doesn't feel like it. But, man, I just don't – the confidence level in them as a playoff team, I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's they have a little something to do. They keep winning, but I think that one of those things that can be used against them. But they run the table. They run the table, no matter, especially because they have.
And then, of course, the Oregon part of this that'll be really interesting to see too next week. And just clearly, I mean, I don't know that I trust Oregon that much to finish 12-1 based on how they played in the Pac-12, but certainly the whole Oregon-Ohio State debate is going to start next week and probably get pretty annoying here.
All right, Max, who's the next coach fired then? Since we're already get to 5.
I mean, that's the weird thing about Wells is like, I would have said, yeah, he's going to be the first coach fired in the Big 12 here. But I would have thought it would be at the end of November, even if it was inevitable. And Kirby Hocutt said it was inevitable. Like the timing of this week didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like you're playing OU this week and then you have a bye. Like, go get blown out by OU and then do it. So, like, just doing it this week I thought was weird. And that, same with Orgeron where, yeah, it seemed inevitable after they lost to Kentucky, but I didn't actually think it'd be during the season. So, I don't know, guys. We were caught off guard on Monday, and, we're probably going to be caught off guard here again in the next few weeks.
Thanks for the time. As always, Max Olson, college football writer, national writer for theathletic.com. He wrote a story about Tech in their search. I could not believe this. They have been ranked in the top 25 since 2010. Remember, 2 years prior to that was that triangle of Oklahoma, Texas, and Texas Tech. 16 weeks in the top 25 in the last 11 and a half years.
Oh, that sounds high. I mean, it kind of does, actually. Yeah. I mean, I know that sounds daunting when you say that, but to me, my reaction isn't like, oh, that's it. I go, yeah, that sounds about right, if not a little high.
And I would almost venture to guess that like 6 of them might have been right in a row.
Probably.
So it's not been 60. Like you might have a big chunk of that right in a row, and then all the rest of it is like they jumped to number 25.
It wasn't when Patrick Mahomes was there.
Yeah,
no, it wasn't. And I'm very curious to see. Like he said, the whole Matt Wells thing, the timing of that. He probably could have waited, but to me, it's like Hocutt said. It was just you saw it coming. It was just like why wait? And maybe the timing could have been a little better. There's a report floating out there right now. I don't know how much validity there really is to it or not because it's Twitter and half the stuff you read on there is BS. But there is somebody who's saying that Jeff Traylor met with Texas Tech earlier today, had a morning meeting with them. I don't know. I'm telling you right now, I don't know how valid that is, but that's just a rumor that's swirling around. So do not say that I reported that because I don't know if it's true, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was. So, yeah, their coaching search is going to be very interesting. It seems like we kind of know who that group of guys that they're really focusing on is, or at least one guy in particular is, and, we'll see what happens. But, yeah, they've been mediocre for a while. They jump up and get, a nice win here and there. But this is a question I keep asking when Matt Wells was there is, like, what was their identity? No one has an answer for that because there wasn't one. It was just they were just a team. There was not a prolific air raid offense. There was not a smash mouth, nasty, shut you down defense. It was just a average offense and an average defense and an average special, just average across the board, if not below average at times. So, I'm definitely in the camp that they needed to make a change. Now, the debate about the timing and all of that's, separate, but I definitely feel like they needed a breath of fresh air.
And I know Max said it doesn't have anything to do with recruiting. I don't think it has anything to do with getting new players. I think it just has to do with not sending, right now you can just save money and all that on your code. I'm not going to send this guy out to go recruit for Texas Tech. Because we know he's not going to be here.
Yeah, I'm trying to find since 2010, their best year was 8-5. Back-to-back years when Tuberville eventually had one game where he left early, and then Cliff Kingsbury's first year. Hey,
yeah,
by
look
the way,
at that.
Don,
I mean, what does that say there? 5th, 6th, 8th.
yeah, no,
5th,
they haven't.
6th,
They have
7th,
not
7th,
touched
8, 9.
They haven't touched anything in a long time. 2008 was that 11-2 team which beat Texas Harrell to Crabtree. Don Harris, who does a great job, been in San Antonio a long, long time. He's saying that he expects Tech to probably come calling somewhere that might take $2.5 to $3 million to keep him at UT San Antonio. Now, they are moving into a new conference sometime soon, but they're also a very young school when it comes to football. I think Jeff Traylor wants to stay at UT San Antonio, but Texas Tech will probably throw the house, the boat, everything else at him, and we'll see what happens. And not sure what UT San Antonio can do, but he made it clear that at least they have been in discussions throughout the year that this might, at least if in fact it happens, what can UT San Antonio or UTSA do?
And I think this is a very pivotal moment for UTSA football. I mean, not because of just the fact that they could lose this coach who's brought them to an unbeaten season, heading into the month of November. I think it's how much do you really want to play this game? Like, how much do you really want to pony up and support football? How serious are you about keeping your head coach around? And I know they have limitations. They can't go out and spend like a lot of Big 12 teams can. Like in the race for who can money whip Jeff Traylor the most, UTSA is not going to win that battle. Oil alums at Tech are going to, keep pushing that number up and up and up. They're just not going to be able to match that. But can they get it to at least a respectable enough level to where, there is enough there to hold on to that you go, you know what? Yeah, this is satisfactory enough that I am going to turn down Tech and maybe wait for something down the line. So for UTSA, I'm sure they're scrambling right now trying to figure out what they can put together. But I'm sure they'll be fine and can hire another new good coach. But if they have the opportunity, they have even the slightest opportunity to keep Traylor, I think they have to do it. They have to find a way to do it.
Yeah, otherwise because right now they put him on the map, and he's been the head coach just for 2 years, but it's worked. Also, who was the guy that was there when they were successful? Mike Leach. He's at Mississippi State.
Yeah. Talking about candy corn.
Yeah, and and they've had a couple. They beat Texas A&M. What was it, 3 or 4 weeks ago? Do you think now that a lot of that's cleared, that he could go back to Lubbock?
No.
I think
if the fans were voting, he could. But administration-wise, even though it's changed over from that time period, it's not all the same parties.
Don't they still owe him some money? Or
yeah,
he
they
thinks
do.
They do.
They still owe him money, and they refuse to pay it. And I'm not getting into that argument because I don't know enough of the minutia of it. But yeah, they do owe him money. But apparently, they're just not going to have to pay it because they haven't, and they're not looking like they're going to. So you might believe in the CJK5H curse is what they've gone through ever since they fired Leach and didn't pay him his money. And there's a lot of Tech fans that believe they have been cursed. And if they just paid him his money that he's owed, that it would clear everything. And I would almost do it just out of superstition. I'd be like, what the hell? Just pay him his money and maybe you start winning games again. But no, they haven't been good solidly, consistently since Leach. And I think a lot of the fans feel like he got wronged. But, I think there's not a return in sight.
If you go to Google and you Google the name Mike Leach and Kent Hance, who's very much influenced at Texas Tech. I'm not done fighting. He said, we had a dubious and dishonest chancellor, Kent Hance. Tech chancellor responds to allegations against Mike Leach. Leach still dropping haymakers on his former Texas Tech administration. And then Ken Hance gets his feelings hurt because I won't sign a lowball contract that he offers. So there's a lot of bad blood. Just you never, in this day and age, you never know. But that would. Yeah. He's the one that won there.
Just for some backstory for people who may not know, when Mike Leach and Texas Tech got crossed, Texas Tech offered him a contract in which said that any book he writes, they get 75% of the money. Any appearances he does, any endorsements, they get all the money. And he was like, that's what started to sour the thing. Before the Craig James kid thing even happened, they were already on the tracks of mad at each other.
Yeah, and Ken Hance has been there for years and years as far as like in that role. So like I said, there's a lot of changing over that has occurred, but I'm sure still a lot of people that are there that were probably involved to some extent. I don't know. I mean, I just don't ever see him going back to Lubbock. I just don't see that as a possibility whatsoever. And I don't know if you're at Texas Tech why you would even. It's kind of like the Art Briles thing to me. It's like, why go down that road when you have this opportunity? And I know why, because he can win you football games. So if that's all it's about, and I know that's all it's about, for most programs, even though they say otherwise, then, if it's just winning games, then okay. But if you're really trying to, like, restart something and build something and and do all that. I just don't know why you rehash older names like a Bryles or a Mike Leach. And again, I don't think he would go there return anyways. But just this is these opportunities do not come around often. And if they are coming around often, then you're just a horrific football program. So this is safe to say.
And the stats that Max mentioned, they've kind of been in the gutter.
Tuberville screwed them, and then obviously Matt Wells wasn't a great hire. So this is an all-important one, and I'm very curious, but I think some new blood would do Tech a lot of good. Somebody who can build them an identity.
There's a lot of discussion, and of course it's the chat room, and we love every one of you, and then even some of the texts as well. Who has a better chance of being hired at Texas Tech? This is tongue-in-cheek and having fun. Mike Leach, Art Briles, or John Gruden?
That third one threw me. Best chance?
This is just kind of some of the,
I would say John Gruden had the best chance of getting hired. I think that Briles would probably be number 2 because we know there will at least be some pushback for that. And Mike Leach, again, I'd never see that happening. So, I guess it would have to be John Gruden by default.
You'd have to call. That doesn't mean that's don't say we reported that.
You'd have a better. You'd have to have somebody call Mike Leach from a non-Lubbock number, so that when it popped on his phone, it didn't say Lubbock, Texas. Because I promise you, anytime Lubbock, Texas pops up on his caller ID, he goes, "Nope."
Yeah. By the way, on Memphis, the Big 12 in Chapter 2. We've discussed this quite a bit about the fact that why they were maybe not a part of Chapter 1, no matter what you've heard reported. We've reported what we've reported. We stick to all of that. But apparently there has been some significant type movement and maybe communication between the two, between Memphis and the Big 12, that at least starts the possibility of the wheels in motion in a little bit faster pace. It's just kind of a part of, Paul, what's that legal letter I keep asking you about? That good faith, that maybe there has been some communication with that. We'll try to have more for you on that tomorrow, but that does seem to be, at least there's a good faith type communication going on in more ways than just talking.
So basically, I would say, just reading between the lines there, based on what we've said about Memphis previously, that Memphis has maybe some assurances of what the future is going to look like and more of an idea of how that path would look, as opposed to being a little bit hesitant to just jump fully into the deep end.
Well, I think they've always known that, but I just think that there's always been like a little bit of a slowdown effect, cholesterol in the system, so to speak, on how they go. Again, with the outgoing president, that is and can slow things down. But there are people who he works for, right? Those who bring him in. And maybe they are involved more in trying to say, okay, listen, let's at least say, hey, not that they haven't said we want to be a part of it, but possibly with ways you can say it more than just a phone call. All right, when we come back, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
If you are looking to sell your home or buy a new one, you probably might have to do both those things. Look, you need a realtor in your corner who knows things. I keep talking about the house that's on my corner. I walk past it, drive past it all the time, and it's for sale by owner. It's been there going on a year now of for sale by owner, and that's not what you want to do, especially in a seller's market. You want to be able to have a realtor that can get your name out there, get your house out there, get people in looking at it that want to buy it, that want to do things to it, that want to remodel it, and all those different things. If you're doing that on your own and you're not a licensed realtor, you're missing out on the benefits of having somebody in your corner. Well, my friend Lance Donaldson can do that for you. Give him a call, 254-214-3713. 254-214-3713. That's Lance Donaldson and the Donaldson family team, brokered by eXp Realty. Whether you're buying or selling, they're going to get you the best deal, and Lance is going to work tirelessly for you to make sure that happens. You get a great deal on the house you're selling and a great deal on the house that you're buying. The real estate market's really confusing right now. Have somebody in your corner who can help you navigate those really choppy waters, and that's Lance Donaldson and the Donaldson family team, brokered by eXp Realty. 254-214-3713.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me.
Refinance your vehicle today at Genco with rates as low as 1.69% for 48 months and have 90 days of no payments. Refinancing can lower your payment, so you pay less for your car. Apply online and get an additional 0.1% off our already low rate. Thank you, Genco. And don't forget, your vote counts. Vote today for your local school to win $1,500 with Genco's School Spirit Competition. For more information, go to gencofcu.org.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
Christmas is the biggest time of year for engagements. You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves, probably 9 out of 10, every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And Prescott on the keeper, walks in, touchdown, Dallas.
It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
We will hear from Mickey Spagnola here momentarily. Sikkim 365 Radio and YouTube 365 Sports. By the way, in the 5 o'clock hour, at the top of the hour when we get there, we will open the phone lines. The text line's always there, 254-339-1122. The chat room continues to go about its business as well. And we're now joined by Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Mickey, I know that a lot of the talk, of course, is Dak and his calf and all that. That makes sense. But were you surprised at all with Mike McCarthy, or when the discussion was Lyle Collins might end up being a guard rather than being the starting right tackle? I know Steele's played well, but did that catch you off at all?
Yeah, a little bit. Now, the part that didn't catch me off, David, was that it would have been unlikely that Lyle Collins would have started this game at right tackle, knowing that he's had one padded practice in 7 weeks. I just thought that might have been rushing it a little bit back quickly, knowing that Steele has played decently in his place. But the guard part, now, I'm not sure if that's a kind of future thing, or maybe it's a let's see what he can do this week, because if Steele's starting, Lyle Collins would be your best backup swing tackle, and maybe he can be the backup swing tackle and backup left guard at the same time. I just think in my books that he's the second best tackle on this team. And I see no reason to try to get greedy or fancy by going long with Steele, and then thinking that a guy that hasn't played guard since 2016 can jump right in there and play well at a different position. So we'll see where that one goes going forward. But I don't think it has anything to do with this upcoming game.
Mickey, it is nice, though, that the Cowboys are in a position where the guy who's sitting in for Lyle Collins can play another week even to get him back in the groove, because there are years past, well, last one would have been one, where had Lyle Collins been suspended for the same amount of time, the second he came back, he'd have had to be in the starting lineup because nobody would have been filling in well enough to justify even getting him ready again.
No, absolutely. And they probably wouldn't have jumped back in with a team that's 5-1 and averaging 34.2 points a game, right? Because we've seen how one position, especially the backup swing tackle position, has held this team hostage for these last several years. So, yeah, kudos to Steele. But I still think if we go back to the 2019 season, I thought Lyle Collins was playing maybe the best football of anybody on the offensive line at that time, and that he should have been a Pro Bowl selection. But we know how that goes. You really stand out one year, and then you have a chance the next year. Well, unfortunately for him, the next year was an injury, and he missed the entire season. So, yeah, I don't know that I want to get too fancy with this deal. But again, my guess is, this is something that's come down probably from the offensive line coach, Joe Philbin. Maybe he thinks that they can deal with Terrence Steele at right tackle and maybe get a bigger body, a stronger body at the left guard spot. Well, we'll find out this week, because there's some guy named Mr. Danielle Hunter that would be against whoever plays that right tackle spot.
Yeah, kind of give me an idea, your thoughts about the Vikings. We know about the running game, Dalvin Cook. Cousins can be hot and cold. At the same time, he's got the weapons, and Thielen and Jefferson as well, who's been explosive. What about their offensive line? Do they protect him pretty well?
The offensive line they've tried to upgrade it, David. They've worked real hard with draft choices, but I'm not sure how well that the offensive line played. But look, all I know is this is going to be the best offense the Cowboys have faced since the Chargers game. And this will be the best quarterback they've faced since the Chargers game. Kirk Cousins can get the ball down the field. You can look at his numbers: 13 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. He's got a 110 quarterback rating, and he lit them up last year. Now, I know this isn't the same defense, the same personnel as last year, but he threw for more than 300 yards. He had 3 touchdowns against the Cowboys, and had a 140 quarterback rating. So all the Cowboys need to do is turn on that film from last year to understand what they're up against. So to me, this defense will go a long way towards dictating what happens in this game. And it means either if Dak's playing, but maybe not 100%, and this offense isn't ready to score 34 points as they're averaging, or if Cooper Rush has to play in his place, and you can't expect a guy making his first NFL start to go out there and go, okay, I'm going to put up 34 points too. So defensively, I think the Cowboys have to hold the Vikings to a reasonable amount of points if they are to have a chance of winning this game on the road under a roof that it's a very noisy stadium.
Mickey, Dak Prescott looks like he's trending in all the right directions. I saw his quote that he practiced really hard today. Do you think that there is anything that's going to keep him from playing that's out there?
Until he did his interview a little while ago, I thought no. I was like, he's playing. You know, my doctor degree says that he's good to go. Well, he said if it was up to him, he was playing. He goes, but it's not totally my decision. So to me, him saying that, and he usually doesn't sandbag, right? That there must be a thought running through the organization, the coaching staff, maybe just Mike McCarthy, that, hey, what if we just try to get through one game without him to ensure that this doesn't extend into 2 or 3 games missed because he played in this one game and aggravated the strained calf muscle. So at this point, I'm thinking, well, maybe they're going to go all the way to Saturday to just see how much he can do. Now, he's been limited in practice. I don't think anybody's sure if he's been able, and they certainly haven't said if he's been able to take any 11-on-11 snaps. So the part of practice we get to watch is basically stretch, warm-ups, individual drills, position drills, and he's looked fine. He's done his rehab on the resistance cords. He's moving fine. He was doing the quarterback drills, throwing against air to receivers. He looked just fine to me. But again, I think that there's got to be some element to this, looking at it at a big picture and say, we can't get to the Super Bowl in Game 7, but we can certainly ruin our chances if he's unable to play games 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah, and Mickey, they're really good. They're so far ahead of the division. Do you see? Could they? I know it's silly. There's a lot of games. Could they actually have this thing wrapped up in the East by Thanksgiving?
Yeah, but you know what, David? This year, with the change in the playoff format, big deal, right? The seeding is the big deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so, okay, fine. You wrapped up the NFC East. But, do you want to be playing? Do you want to try to get that top seed? I mean, you're only a game behind Arizona at this point, and the Cardinals have a pretty tough go tonight with Green Bay, and you get a chance to play them yourself. So I think it's more at this point, and I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion they're going to win the NFC East, but you still got 11 games to go, and we see what happens when you get injuries, especially to your quarterback. All you had to do was watch the Monday night game, right? But I think that there's a bigger picture they're looking at than just wrapping up the NFC East.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that they would clinch it. I'm not saying they would slow down, but the possibility they could actually clinch it as well. Cowboys and Vikings coming up Sunday night.
Mickey, when you look at kind of the matchup of these, I mean, when it's, Jefferson and Thielen and Cooper and Lamb and Zeke and Pollard and then Cook. I mean, everybody, it kind of matches up really evenly. To me, this might be on which quarterback is forced to make a mistake at a crucial time.
No, that's why I said it may not be the mistake. It may be the defense jumping up and making plays, right? And, at this point, if you ask me what's the Cowboys' weak spot, well, I still think it's the defense. I understand the takeaways. I understand the interceptions, but they give up a whole heck of a lot of yards. Well, what happens if they don't get those takeaways? And so, and they've given up quite a few points, by the way. So, the scary thing to me is I looked at this stat, and I don't have the number on the top of my head, but we think the Cowboys have a pretty fine passing offense, right? They've thrown for just more than 1,800 yards. Well, the defense has given up more passing yards than the Cowboys have passed for. So that part scares me, that at some point, and you're going to face a quarterback that's hot, and this will be the best quarterback since Justin Herbert in the game 2 that they're going to face. So they've got to step up. They've got to be better. You can't expect you to continue scoring 34 points a game, especially if you're playing with a quarterback that's a little bit lame or a first-time starting quarterback.
Mickey, thank you very much. Mickey Spagnola, Thursdays at 4:30 with us. Sikkim 365 Radio and also 365 Sports. Heck of a matchup coming up. And you look at the schedule, this team's not as good. They got Arizona down the road. Who knows what happens with them? But one thing we do know is that someone will sneak up in the next 8 weeks or so and be better than you think they are right now. No different than college football.
Well, they got the Chiefs down the line. What if the Chiefs figure it out?
That's, to have them held to 3 points. I know Tennessee's really pretty good. But they're
not on defense, though.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. You wonder, has Josh Gordon, is he still with them?
Mm-hmm.
You wonder, was that a panic move? They have weapons.
No, I mean, no.
It's a talent move. Because
I think it was a talent move, and I think it was just one of those things they could do. What they need to do is, if they want him to help, they need to start feeding him some sandwiches and have him grow 3 inches. But, become a lineman, because that's their biggest problem.
Starting to take more and more hits, starting to take more and more. He took risks, but those risks always paid off, and now some of them aren't. When we come back, 4:49, Craig Smoak and Off the Radar, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on now at Richard Carr, although, of course, there has been a little bit of a backup due to a lack of inventory across the country. That's made some things difficult for dealerships all over, but the good news is that General Motors has announced that the computer chip shortages that have been negatively affecting all of the inventory worldwide, well, that's looking to be corrected here pretty soon as GM is restarting production and will release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. If you're looking for vehicles right now at Richard Carr, how about a Sierra? The ideal combo of power and strength with refinement and luxury. Sierra is one of the best trucks on the road. If you're looking for a roomy SUV, then consider the lineup of Buicks. They offer size, versatility, and a lot of different options to fit your lifestyle. Or maybe you want a combo of sophistication and power, then check out the new Cadillac XT6 or Escalade. Bottom line, whatever you're looking for when it comes to new cars, they are on their way. So right now, get your name on the Choose Your Inbound Vehicle list over at Richard Carr, and you will ensure that you will drive a new car or truck sooner by putting your name on that list. You will be one of the first to get those new cars and trucks as they arrive. So call or contact Richard Carr online with what you want and let them get you on that Choose Your Inbound Vehicle list today and get that vehicle before everyone else. And if you're not in the market necessarily or patient enough to wait for new cars, well, there are plenty of premium pre-owned cars and trucks also available at Richard Carr. All of them go through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot. And with dozens of lenders, Richard Carr says yes when others say no. 100% credit approval is always the goal, so go online or come by for a test drive today. Richard Carr, your local hometown dealership. Give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes, and superior service after the sale. Richard Carr Motors, owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome back into Sikkim 365 Radio. Time for Off the Radar, taking a look at some just various stories around the world of sports, including college football, but a lot of other stuff that we wouldn't typically touch on. We are going to start with some college football, though. Did y'all see the Nick Saban statement that sent a shock throughout the college football world?
No.
He says he's got another 10 years left in him.
I'm sure he does.
He says he's got another 10 years. He turned 70 on Sunday, and he was wrapping up. He was taking some questions from the media on Wednesday, and he took some questions about, the fact that, hey, he's going to be turning 70 here pretty soon. And, I think everybody's kind of wondered between a Mario Cristobal and, even though the Dabo stuff, Alabama fans just kind of say, no, that's not really a thing. It does make you wonder at 70 years old, like how long is Nick Saban going to coach? And there's nothing about when I watch him that makes me think he's anywhere close to it or makes me even think that he's 70 years old practically. I mean, he looks really good for his age, but yeah, he said, I just kind of keep on keeping on. I don't have a timetable for anything. The only thing that I've ever said is that if I felt like I was writing the program down or I wasn't able to make a positive contribution to the program, then that would probably be time to let somebody else carry the torch. And so one of the reporters brought up, there's always been that connection, not familial, with the Lou Saban, longtime coach. And Lou Saban, at age 80, back in 2001, was hired as the head coach of Chowan University in North Carolina. And so there's been like that little Saban connection, over the years or whatever. So Saban had said back then, because he was the head coach at LSU, that he couldn't see himself coaching at age 80, right? Well, here he is. He's a decade away, and he's saying, I got another 10 years left in me, man. So maybe he does get there, but that did lead to the reporter bringing up Lou Saban coaching at 80, Saban himself saying, I got 10 more years, man. So get ready for more Nick Saban in Alabama, it looks like.
Yeah, if you're the coach at Alabama, I mean, why would you want to ever leave right now when the college football world is at your fingertips, and he doesn't and I'm not saying that those coaches don't recruit hard, because they do, and they probably recruit better than most. But when Nick Saban walks into a room and says, do you want to go to Alabama? He doesn't have to sit there and sweat about it like other coaches do. Like, okay, I'll just throw out one that's a pretty what's a second-tier coach? Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy's got to walk into a room, and if he's recruiting somebody against Alabama, he better hope that kid loves Stillwater, Oklahoma. He better hope. But Nick Saban doesn't walk into a room going, man, I hope this guy really loves Alabama.
You know what he does? He walks into a room in front of a guy that might be the highest-rated player at a position, whatever class it is. And if he doesn't get him, he'll get the next guy.
Yeah. So
it's like going to Vegas. The people who win money are usually the ones that have the money to spend.
Mattress Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mattress Mac for sure. So, yeah, Saban looking like, or at least saying during that little conference, that he's got another 10 years left. So that's interesting, especially if he actually does coach another 10 years. That'll be amazing. I don't know if you guys had seen this story, but it's quite interesting when it comes to television ratings and the effect that it has when pitting sports leagues together. The NBA has made a big change in their schedule. Typically, you would see them Thursday night programming. You'd have, Ernie and Shaq and Kenny and the whole crew, Charles. But you may have noticed, if you do watch the NBA on a regular basis, that TNT has shifted that. And they are, in fact, not going to air their usual Thursday night games until January of 2022. They'll be on Tuesdays instead, Kenny, Shaq, Charles, and Ernie. And the reason why? They don't want to go head-to-head with Thursday Night Football. Mm-hmm. So Thursday Night Football has shifted the NBA schedule to where their big Thursday night is now, at least until the end of 2021, going to be their big Tuesday night broadcast.
I can imagine Adam Silver and the NBA brass sitting around going, we're going to have to move this because this Jacksonville versus Baltimore game is knocking us off.
Yeah.
Like we get no, and it's like this is the NFL's done better this year with Thursday night games. This one this week is great. The Packers and the Cardinals tonight, but most of the time they've been, a 1-5 Giants team versus a 2-4 Washington.
But even
Thursdays are very forgettable for the most part. They really are.
Sometimes I forget someone's playing, and that's not because of it. It's just, but they still have massive numbers. Their ratings are just incredible. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they are.
And that's a great show to be moving around because of that. That goes to show you.
Well, and if you read like some of the, stories or responses or people that cover the NBA, or just NBA fans in general, I mean, I think there's some sentiments. Like, your hardcore NBA fans, they're watching right now and they're as invested right now, and they'll be the same way invested, if not more, by the end of the year. But there are a lot of people who don't care about this portion of the season all that much. I mean, that's just being honest. And, they kind of wait for that Christmas Day slate of games to feel like, oh, okay, now the NBA season has started. So I don't know if it'll make, end up being a really big deal, and they will resume in January of next year, TNT on Thursday nights. So just a little NBA note there. Got a UFC card coming up this weekend. It's going to be John Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira. Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington, part 2 rematch of that fight, as the UFC gets another pay-per-view underway this weekend. And that is going to be UFC 267. The light heavyweight title between Blachowicz, the champion, and Teixeira will be the main event for that card, and that will be in Abu Dhabi as they return to the Fight Island portion of their schedule. Remember, they had to do that during the pandemic. So they found something there in Abu Dhabi, like a lot of other very rich people have found, a lot of other very, very rich people in Abu Dhabi. So that's why they keep going back. But they had done the whole Fight Island thing there. They're going back, and that will be the card. But notable about that, so if you're looking for something additional to watch this weekend, got a UFC card you can venture into. But notable about that is the fact that the voice of the UFC, their iconic voice, I think, in a lot of ways, Bruce Buffer, is going to miss his first pay-per-view in over 24 years due to COVID-19.
Oh, man.
COVID-19 breaking his streak, 24 years. He will miss UFC 267, and that announcement was made today by Dana White. He said Buffer was diagnosed, and that's why he can't be at the card. So Joe Martinez will handle in-cage announcing. Buffer's been with the UFC since 1996 and appeared on every event since arriving.
And we met Bruce Buffer, I want to say, in Phoenix. Was that in Phoenix?
Yeah, I don't remember what city it was, but I remember
we met
interviewing
Bruce
him.
Buffer. He was great. He was,
Yeah, no, it was Phoenix because it was him, it was Connor, and they had a few other fighters there as well. And that's kind of, one of the first years that the UFC started to kind of promote themselves during Super Bowl week. So, he's been a part of everything since UFC 13. And this is, what did I just say, 257?
Yeah.
That's quite a lot of fights that he's witnessed there. So Bruce Buffer will not be the familiar, you won't hear his familiar voice when watching this weekend. MLB postseason, got the night off. That will resume tomorrow. Astros and Braves will see the series shift to Atlanta, and that series is now tied at 1 apiece, and the Astros got them one yesterday. Your thoughts on splitting in Houston? I mean, the Braves can look at that as a win as they now head back home. The Astros obviously were able to avoid an 0-2 hole and then have to hit the road. But we got ourselves a series.
Yeah, I got mad and turned it off. But why? Because the Astros beat the Red Sox. I'm still mad at them. It has nothing to do with cheating a couple years ago. I'm kind of past that.
Did you watch Game 1?
Yeah, I watched Game 1.
Why didn't you watch Game 1?
Because I was enjoying watching the team I was mad at lose.
Okay.
I mean, I'm still mad at the Astros.
You're not one of those.
What?
That you enjoy the team that beat your team.
Not really. I'm still mad at the Astros. I'm just mad at the situation.
You should be mad at your team.
I'm mad at, believe me, I'm constantly mad at them.
Yeah, I know.
I'm constantly mad at them. But I think the series is going to get really weird. Neither of the teams have what you would call normal World Series starting pitching depth. The only teams in the postseason that did were the Dodgers and the Giants, and they're both out.
Yeah.
The Rays would have at the beginning, but they all got hurt. So it's a weird year. It's going to be a weird series. It's going back to Houston. I see no reason that either team's going to sweep through Atlanta and win 3 games. So it's going back to Houston because it's going to get really weird. You're going to see some bizarre games.
Yeah, it'll be Luis Garcia for the Astros and Ian Anderson for the Braves, and that is tomorrow night. You'll have Game 4 on Saturday, Game 5 on Sunday. So you got 3 straight nights of ball games there in Atlanta as the series once again shifts. One note that I don't know how it ended up getting brought up because apparently it's been the case for a while now, but do you remember when the whole Astros scandal was getting underway or whatever, and there was the one aspect of the story that wasn't about cheating, it was just about the toxic culture, if you will, that they were alleging, and you may remember a guy by the name of Brandon Taubman. He was an Astros executive who apparently had made the comment in front of the female reporters a couple of years back about
I do remember
Osuna, and we got Osuna and apparently got into some female reporter's face, and the reason why that was even extra offensive was because Osuna has a history of not really dealing well with women in any way. So it was a very bad look for him. He was fired in 2019 as a result of making those comments, and apparently he's back with the Astros and has been for some time now. Yahoo Sports, I saw, had that. Apparently he was reinstated last year. Actually, New York Post had that first, Joel Sherman, but he's reinstated last year. So, not a story of major significance by any means, but just kind of interesting that
I think Jim Crane is very much in the dance. He's better at what he does than Dan Snyder is because he's built a winner. But I think he's in the very much Dan Snyder, I'm going to hire her, I'm going to hire, and we'll deal with whatever comes. But clearly, when the scandal broke, you could tell that Jim Crane didn't really care, and when this happened, he didn't really care. He just responds to it as maybe he feels like it's necessary to get people to stop talking about it. I'm not trying to dump on Jim Crane any more than he
Sounds
just
like you are.
Yeah, he just doesn't seem to give
a crap about what people think, and that can be good or bad depending on our
Dave
perspective.
Chappelle.
Yeah, I'm all in his corner. So, but yeah, he just doesn't seem to care, and maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. I don't know.
Well, Taubman was fired 2 years ago, as I mentioned. Apparently, when he had his first opportunity to apply for reinstatement, which was after last year's World Series, that's what he did, and they reinstated him. And the main reason why Major League Baseball apparently reinstated him was because they found that he had no role in the sign scandal. So, the comments or whatever he did, that wasn't good, but he wasn't directly involved in the bigger story, and therefore he's been back and has been back ever since he was first eligible to be so.
The one weird thing about that whole "I'm so glad we signed Osuna" was they lost the World Series because of Osuna. Like he was in the and they almost lost in the ALCS because of Osuna. And so I was like, why? That's a weird position to take. Like, you may be glad that he helped get you to that game, but the series there and then the series after, you were definitely not glad you traded for him.
Yeah, definitely not. The Cleveland Indians, we know that they are changing their name. Their playing name is the Cleveland Guardians, which is kind of whatever to me. But they are being sued by the Cleveland Guardians roller derby team.
I saw that.
And so we will see that get taken to court or some settlement or something happen. And I didn't dive super far into this because, I'm not obsessed with this story by any means, but I guess somebody had checked out the socials for the roller derby team and they had been kind of inactive for the most part, but all of a sudden, here they are, no, we're the Cleveland Guardians. So we will see if they end up having to change the name or if they, pay them some money to become the Cleveland Guardians. But, there's at least some challenge to it.
Ask Dan Lust the next time that we get him on, because he had a real funny series of tweets on it about how Cleveland could have, with a Google search, avoided this completely.
Yeah, for sure.
Like most everything else.
Yeah, that's all they had to do. There's Twitter account, website, whatever. It's very clearly something that's at least been, there before you decided to change your name. And I'll close it out with this. There's a lot of other stories I could do, but I'll close it out with this. Shout out to the Utah Utes this weekend. They're going to honor Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe. Those are the two young men who both tragically died over about the last year and a half, within 9 months of each other, as a matter of fact. They will be honored during a ceremony against UCLA, and they will also be the first players to have, in program history, to have their number, the number 22, retired by the program. So Jordan had that number in 2020 as a freshman. He obviously blew up, was a really good running back. I was so looking forward to, for the next 4 years, he's going to be on the Earl list, nearly every week. I was like, bang, we got a Utah guy set in stone, and obviously that's so nothing compared to the other ramifications of it. But, had the accidental gunshot wound. Apparently he was handling a gun and something happened, and he tragically passed away. And what makes this story even sadder is they obviously were friends from their high school days. And after Jordan passed, Lowe started wearing his number, and then Lowe passes. And so Utah is retiring the number 22. Lowe passed away on September 26th. And was murdered. So really tough stuff there, but Utah is going to be honoring both young men coming up this weekend against
it's one thing
UCLA.
To lose one, but to lose two, and lose them so early, even if it was 10 years apart.
So there are a few things that are off the radar.
Yeah, and the last thing is, Paul sent this. PETA wants baseball to change the name of the bullpen to the
Arm Barn.
Arm Barn.
Look, I don't actually, of all the stupid things that PETA has done, at least they came with a funny name on this one. But cows are not slaughtered more because the bullpen in baseball is called the bullpen. That's not leading more people. People are not watching a baseball game and hear the term bullpen and go, you know what I would like? An inhumanely treated cow in my face.
So that's just, sometimes I
stupid.
wonder, do people just wake up looking for something they want to change?
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That is half of why you hear about PETA, is because they are bored people with nothing to do that look for anything to complain about and act like it's the biggest fight in the world. As somebody said to that, I didn't bring it up because PETA is just, I didn't even want to get into it, but as somebody said,
I'm bringing it up because they look like idiots.
That's fine. That's offensive to people who have no arms.
I know.
That's offensive to people who don't have a barn. That's the same way you could look at it.
Or the animals that are in a barn.
Yeah, I mean, if we really want to just, the way people, and the way that they allow certain words like that to, certain words I understand. Bullpen, does that really bother you? Does that really affect your way of life in any way, shape, or form? Or are you just telling the world that you have nothing else to do?
From Mitchell Jackson, it sounds like half of this chat room Stop, Mitchell, stop.
Maybe not half.
Double O'Neill, we're eating hamburgers tonight.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, my God. All right, when we come back, a couple of notes, including now. We open the lines to you, 5:11. We have about 40 minutes, a little bit less than that. Paul, you can open the lines up.
Yes.
254-339-1122. Any questions or what you have been discussing you want to ask us, you want to ask about the show, what goes on with the show, things of how we do what we do, and also the coverage of college football and more. 254-339-1122. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
BetUS.com, the 3-decade leader, pioneers in the sportsbook industry. This is the best time of year for sports betting. Not only do you have the NFL well underway, college football about to get to the best part of its year, the World Series, the NBA just started, the NHL just started, you've got the PGA about to ramp back up again, UFC, boxing, tons of stuff, plus they've got horses, casino, and all that at BetUS.com, plus great deals like our promo codes, SIGM125, that's if 125% bonus on cash, or SIGM200, and that's if you use crypto. So bet with the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. Use promo code SIGM125 and SIGM200.
New cars and trucks are coming. New car inventory is low, but GM just announced they will release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. Now is the time to get on Richard Carr's inbound vehicle list. Choose your inbound vehicle, get on the list, and get your car or truck first. Call Richard Carr Motors or go online to choose your inbound vehicle today. Go to richardcarr.com for details.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. you feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
On 2nd and 10, all day to throw it. Well, not quite all day, maybe one play. Doyle doing it on both ends, on both sides of the football. This will be from...
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, 5:17, 365 Sports, Sikkim 365 Radio. I'm trying to time it out in between the dead spots. Armstrong Sims, Jack McKenzie in our studio, our incredible sponsors. We mention them to close out every show, but we should mention them even more often. You see some of them behind us, the images, the logos, the graphics, and those you hear during the commercial breaks. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak. Let's go. Wide open here. It could be college football. Most of you like to talk college football. Well, let's do it. 254-339-1122. And I'm going to ask you a question. You can either call and tell us this or on the chat or text. How did you hear about us? I know that in late July, everything exploded with Texas OU, the SEC, and our YouTube channel went from 2,600 subscribers to now nearly 14,000 plus. So who told you, or did you just run into us? What happened during that time as we were ahead of the curve on everything post that story and eventually the Big 12 being expanded down the road?
Yeah, I look forward to I guess, hearing that, and I wanted to comment on something completely separate. Be very thankful this Saturday, Baylor and Texas fans, that the wind is not supposed to be as bad as it is right now.
It's crazy, yeah.
Near 17-mile-per-hour winds. It is like a tornado outside at the moment. And all I can think of is if it was like this on Saturday, good thing both teams have good running games because you're not throwing the ball 10 yards. I mean, without it moving sideways due to the wind, it's crazy. But by Saturday, it's supposed to calm down like big time. So that's good news.
And you got two kickers who can kick it from 50 yards anyway, with Hankins from Baylor, which has been a great story under the radar in a way, and of course Dicker, the kicker at the University of Texas, and what Isaac Powers done punting. If he gets one behind him, my goodness, he might send a few of them. Let's go to the calls. We've told everyone we can get to the calls.
I really hope that Texas's next punter is named Hunter, so that Craig Way gets to call him Hunter the punter. But, we'll see. All right, let's go to Josh in Washington. You're on the Bet US caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys. Short and sweet, but you guys keep up the fantastic work, man.
Thank you.
You really got me in there. Non-biased, you're just straight shooters, telling it how it is. But hey, let's go Baylor Bears. I know the Bears are mauling for a freaking a porterhouse or whatever they're going to get there on Saturday. But I'm really real excited to watch them because it's the second time I'm going to watch Baylor play, and I'm just going to take Baylor. If they do win that game, they're going to go to the Big 12 championship. And I'm not saying Oklahoma's going to be there because we might not even be talking about Oklahoma in 2 or 3 weeks. But I was listening to Max earlier, and I just have a question. And maybe I've been out because I've been on the road. But, I watched that PSU-Illinois game. That was really mundane and boring to me, man. I think it would have been a lot better, just to let them play out quarters, 5-minute quarters, and see who wins in the end because – hell, by the time you got to the Cluckers and the Bruins game, it was already into the second half. And I know it's about time and money, but my question is if it was up to you guys, each individual, how would you guys change the overtime format? And what would be your, format? Or do you like the way it is now? And go, Bears. Maul some horn.
Thank you for the call in Washington. By the way, Nicole Arbach had a note about overtime. The average number of plays that were run during the overtime prior to the new changes was 14.4 plays. And Penn State and Illinois ran 14 plays after, I think, the second overtime. So really, it kind of is doing what they wanted to do, is speed the game up a little bit. That just got into the point where no one could score.
My chosen format, I don't know if I'd play 5 minutes because you can sit on the ball, but I like the way that the NFL does it now, honestly, where everybody gets a possession, and then you can just do that. Maybe you go to the penalty kicks format that they've got now after that 10-minute period where just play a quarter. Just go ahead and play and see who wins it. Because to me, I'd rather see that than...
But shrink it from 15 minutes.
Yeah, do a 10-minute, like that's what the NFL does in the regular season. It's a 10-minute period. Somebody scores a touchdown first, it's over, and each team can get a... But
I like what the NFL's doing. Different league, different type of
yeah,
thing. Craig, do you like the fact someone may not get the ball? If they give up a touchdown?
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't like, if you're tied at the end of the game, why is it coming down to a coin flip?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to go and score, but you've been even the entire game for 4 quarters. And now you get to the overtime period to determine winner, and one team automatically gets a major advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's part of the deal. You can't make it perfectly fair, but I do think both teams should get possessions. At the bare minimum, I don't know how I feel about these new rules. I mean, let's face it, the main reason why they're doing it is player safety, or at least that's what they say is the reason why they're doing it. I don't think we should have games like LSU and A&M where there's 7 full-blown overtimes practically, but I also don't know if this is the way either. And, this is like the college football playoff. This has been a discussion for decades now, it feels like at least 20 years of, how to do the college football overtimes. Do you do the NFL model? Do you do a kickoff contest? Do you do any variety of things? And I really don't know to answer your question. I mean, I think I preferred it the way it was before the change. I don't think that was perfect, but I think that, both teams got an opportunity. And
a bunch.
Yeah, and you got to start. You didn't do the whole rigmarole of having to go the length of the field. And I know that does take away from the teams who are better about operating down the field, and that gives an advantage to those who may only really be good in the red zone and don't have a great offense, but at least you both got cracks at it.
And every phase of the game was involved, especially in the first 2 possessions. You still had to kick. Mm-hmm. And you might have had to kick field goals or whatever. But, yeah, and the defense was able to make plays. They weren't I don't know about giving them the ball at the 3 or whatever it is. That's a little bit but you're trying to get the game over.
Right, yeah. I don't know about, setting them on the doorstep necessarily, but I also don't think you have to make them drive the length of the field either. So I kind of preferred it the way that it was, honestly. And, that made for a fun-ish watch. But I think there's also was plenty of people that were like, that was way too long. Way too many 2-point conversions. And you know what? The 2 teams made it as long as it was because there was multiple opportunities.
And that was the exception, though. It's not going to be like every time.
No, of course not.
Bizarre.
But, because that's what we have to work with. That's what people are going to think about in terms of the format.
I'm also probably the wrong person to ask about this because I'm a guy who in my life has sat at 2 different 18-inning baseball games and not batted an eye because I like being at games, as a fan. Now, as a reporter, I'd probably be like, we've got work to do. Let's go. But, again, it's kind of different, but yeah, I mean, I do hope that both teams get the ball, but I wish there were just, I don't know how I feel about after 2 overtimes going to that, like
2-point conversions.
Yeah, 2-point conversions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to at some point because otherwise everybody's going to make their extra points.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so you have to do something.
Although the NFL extra points have got a little bit.
I'm talking about just full on 2-point conversions and nothing else. Just starting from the little stripe and go.
No, yes,
I asked a question about how people found this. I want to get to that in the next call. From Mal, found you guys looking for conference realignment talk. Mean Green, American Power.
I want to go back to the Porterhouse comment. Former Baylor offensive lineman Blake Blackmar has been preparing a Bevo menu, I think, for the last few days. At least that's what he's been tweeting about, preparing some Bevo and all that. I don't know if he's got a porterhouse, but based on what Blake brought the last time he was in the studio.
He might just bring the entire piece of Bevo.
It'll be good, whatever it is.
From Double O'Neill and Preseason Talk, just typed it in and y'all popped up on YouTube.
Cool.
I was listening to this one. I was jogging and learned about your channel looking for a sports radio gig or sports radio to listen to while jogging. I recognized your names from my East Texas running days, chimed in since, still run, but not as far as I used to. Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Shout out to good old East Texas.
From Michael as well. Michael Wall, I do recall your name without question. And there's a few other ones that said they just started to see it. Your videos started popping up on YouTube. I grew up in the East Texas area in the 80s. Good to see you, Smokey, again. And, of course, Paul and Craig as well. That makes me feel old. RBH 2021, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Chris in Missouri. You're on the BetUS caller line.
Good afternoon, gents. How you doing?
Doing great.
Okay. I don't want to go on a diatribe, but this is about the NBA and what I can't stand about the NBA. You have LeBron James, who tormented Cleveland for an hour before he finally let them know that he wasn't interested in staying with them, and he was going to stack a team with, Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade to win a championship. Which, that kills parity. And who the hell wants to watch a game where you're stacking talent? Golden State did it. The Lakers are doing it. And that abomination that's the WNBA, I don't know, all 12 people who watch the WNBA, they're probably disappointed, but nobody else would be if you took it off the radio. Sorry, I'm a bit salty today, but just figured I'd get that out. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks. I think, and I remember just feeling happy for the NBA that the Milwaukee Bucks won. The last couple of champions haven't been decided in free agency. I like that. I like that. I like that the Bucks had to do it building through the draft and free agency and everything, and not just we've used these NBA salary cap rules, which are hardly rules. They're rules in the fact that they exist and they're on paper and that they have to follow them, but they're not hard to get around.
He did lead Cleveland.
Yeah.
To a championship.
Yes.
Yeah.
He himself. Now, I think Kyrie Irving was a part of that team as well. But he did go back to Cleveland. Yeah, his first rings were in Miami, and he's won a handful in L.A. But he did go back to his hometown. I thought that was pretty cool. I was a fan of his. I'm not so much anymore. It's not like it makes my day one way or the other. But I was happy that he helped Cleveland win a championship because it had been forever.
Yeah, the whole super team thing, that's been going on for so long now. And I feel just kind of hypocritical, knocking that when we talk mostly about college football, where it's all about stacking rosters and Alabama getting 25 stars and Clemson and Georgia and all them doing the same thing too. So it's kind of similar actually in that regard. And it's kind of similar too in that, LeBron in that first instance, at least the decision, which was just the dumbest thing. I'm sure if he could go back, he would probably do that differently.
You talking about the interview with
Jim Gray?
Yeah, the decision, the big decision. That was stupid.
Yeah.
It was dumb and just way too dramatic for just what could have been a tweet or something. But so I can't really knock the super team stuff. I do think it takes away from a lot of the markets though. But those teams, the Lakers, they draw big ratings and all that. I'm not somebody who will ever knock LeBron James's basketball ability, but I'm just not a fan of his, and it's not anything he said about China or anything else like that. I just don't vibe with him. I just don't connect with him, and maybe it's an age thing. He and I are the same age, but maybe it's that. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but the super team thing, that's just the reality. It's a very buddy league. That's why you see Harden hopping around to wherever his buddies are, or KD or whatever, and it's not for everybody, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely not. All right, let's go to Owen in Virginia. Owen, always great to hear from you.
We're not going to talk about the WNBA comment?
I'm going to leave it out.
Okay.
All right, Owen, go ahead.
Hey guys, I just wanted to call and let you know. I've been following since July. Your video just kind of popped up on YouTube, and I've been watching ever since. So great realignment talk. That's what really got me hooked, and you just keep having a great show. So just keep up the good work. And but I think I've been texting with Smokey about this. Is the Sun Belt has added Southern Miss and ODU. And supposedly within the next coming week, Marshall and JMU are supposed to apply here soon. Do you think with all this new talent coming in and with Coastal and App State and ULL that the Sun Belt could replace the American as the top group of 5 conference?
Well, if the American could lose in the next month or 5, Memphis, USF, South Florida, and
SMU.
And SMU. Mm-hmm. And, they just added, and I was like, if you look at how many they added and who they might lose, it kind of gets them back to, there's the possibility. I wouldn't put anything against who's going to end up being the best group of 5 right now. I think American still is right there.
I liked Owen. I really liked what David Teel had to say. If you missed that at all on the show earlier, I liked what he had to say about the way that conference in the East is going to work out, where it's completely regional. So schools like ODU and Marshall and James Madison and Coastal Carolina are all, and the Georgia schools are all within a stone's throw of each other, and you have a truly regional conference or side of a conference. I think that's pretty cool. I think that that's something that we've lost in the A5 for sure, and at least the Sun Belt is going to have some of that.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, it depends on what the Big 12 does next, because if they go through with Phase 2, then yeah, absolutely. The American's going to be, you would have taken basically what their top 6 programs. And so, yeah, that's going to be tough for them to be able to maintain the same level of respect that they have currently, because it's just not even going to be the same league. It's going to be, pretty much entirely different aside from a few teams. So I'm very curious to see what happens with Conference USA. What happens there? What do they do about Conference USA? So, credit to the Sun Belt for being proactive and for, not wasting any time and seeing the needs and going out and having a plan. And now they've got it set up to where, hey, you can look at it and go, okay, well, that looks kind of cool. That looks like it could work. But, they're going to stay afloat. I'm not so sure about Conference USA and what happens there. And, the American, if they lose another 3 of their prominent teams, and they definitely are going to take another step down. So, sure, yeah, if the Sun Belt puts on a good brand of football, they can be right there at the top.
Here's one of the things we do know is that after the Texas and Oklahoma story popped, everyone looked as if the Big 12 might be dead. Right? And we now know that they have survived and they are in pretty good shape and maybe even wanting to grow more, probably will. And then there was the story that the ESPN was trying to prop up the American Conference. At least that's the story. Bob Bowlesby got involved. Cease and desist. Nothing's happened since that time. And then you look up and the American's the one that maybe thought, this is our chance. And now they're kind of clinging. And I wish them the best of luck. I hope they end up surviving. And you don't want to see something die. I hate old conferences that used to be, but there's now more and more of those ever before.
But it was like Mike Oresco said, a few weeks ago when he was talking about, once realignment started happening again, and he was, looking at the fact that they were going to be losing some more teams, and then other leagues started expanding and doing what they were doing. And he's like, it is kind of funny that, we were the bad guys or whatever, and now here's the Big 12, and they're the ones taken from us and now putting us in danger. So it is strange how that worked out, and I hope that the American is able to keep it. I don't think they're in danger of drowning anytime soon, but I hope they're able to keep it afloat and keep it at a high level. But it's going to be really tough. You just can't. It's like, everybody said you can't replace Texas and OU. Mm-hmm. Even if you add 6-8 teams, you can't replace the brands that are Texas and OU. And I think that in the case of the American, it's the same thing. You can add 6 or 8 teams, but you're not going to replace what Cincinnati was for you and what UCF was for you and what Houston was for you.
Yeah. Every conference has their dogs. And some of them are losing their dogs because others have lost theirs. And like you said, you can't compare the ones the Big 12 are adding to Texas and OU in many ways, but it's about as good of a list as you could possibly get considering where they were. And now how this affects others, like even the segment when we had with David Teel out of Virginia. Old Dominion somehow finds themselves where they are. Good for them that it's affected them. Paul?
Yeah, I was just going to say the Big 12 took on the Sean Connery, the Untouchables. They put one of ours in the hospital, we put one of theirs in the morgue. Kind of a thing. And that's they thought the American had something to do with it. Whether they did or didn't, the American was the best place for them to go. So that's where they went.
Okay, do Sean Connery and Crimson Tide.
No, not
what's for Red October?
Hunt for Red October.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of a
While
line.
you do that, I'm going to read from the 360. You guys popped up on my work iPad at work because I'm on the road. A lot happened to hit your videos and really took to you guys because of the content you talked about. Really enjoy. Keep it up. I don't get to listen a lot, but you guys are always in the know. So congrats, Joshua, from the 360. Go Sooners. Joshua, thank you very much. How about this one? A Frog fan here from the 214 found you guys in late July looking for realignment information. You're the best there is covering the Big 12. Thank you, Josh, and listen all the time right now.
Thank you very much, Josh, and thank you to everybody else as well that's been chiming in. And I will say, in regards to TCU, what an interesting game this weekend with K-State. There has not been any scenario that I can think of in the close to 10 years I've been covering Baylor now of where Gary Patterson has had this much sort of unrest surrounding him. You know what I mean? From not only the fans, But who I see, and I don't know that they're the majority, but there are definitely some fans who are at a point of unrest right now and kind of feel like, hey, we're in need of a shakeup. But you look at the fact that Gary Patterson's antics aren't going over as well as they used to. I mean, did y'all see the number of media guys that were commenting on their lack of media access? When do you remember that ever happening?
Never.
Nothing's changed.
No.
Nothing at all has changed in the last 10 years. But now, like our buddy Sam Kahn's talking about their media policy and how ridiculous it is. And other guys are talking about, well, Gary Patterson complains about Zach Evans not getting enough NIL stuff. Well, you don't make him available. He's talked apparently one time since he's been on campus.
Yeah.
So you're kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth, which is, kind of his MO at times. So this game this weekend, that's a big one for TCU. That's a big one for K-State as well.
All right. Hold on. You want me to do Connery?
Yeah, and then I'm going to read 2 more chats, and then we'll go back to the calls.
So this is from
you're taking this is plagiarism.
Oh, no, I have to do I'm doing a line from the movie. That's what I did the last time.
All right.
Mind you, he played a Russian in this and still uses the same accent.
Yeah.
Once more, we play our dangerous game, a game of chess against our old adversary, the American Navy. For 40 years, your fathers before you and older brothers played this game and played it well. But today, the game is different. We have the advantage.
That's damn good, man. I love that movie, too. From Gary Lewis, when I first stumbled on 365, was happy because I'd heard Smokey Sr. guest hits on the Galloway show. Of course, Randy Galloway, one of the greatest ever. And then heard the content on a tiny station, maybe based out of Cleburne. That was our station that we simulcast for.
That's a long story.
I cannot believe
Gary Lewis.
I cannot believe
we found the person that listened.
First time anyone's ever on Cleburne Radio.
Yeah.
We didn't even get phone calls from Cleburne. We were on Cleburne Radio.
Oh, I know. That's great. Gary, thank you, by the way. Oh, it was always great. I'll never forget, I did an interview with, who was a former Cowboy? Oh, my God. He was Dan Reeves. I did an interview with him when he was after he was retired and wasn't coaching. Remember, the Cowboys looked at him, did an interview with him, and he blasted the way the organization was run. And his show, Randy's show, we run it, of course, ran that interview twice in one day, and it was like 25 minutes, and I appreciated him for doing that. All right, let's go back to the calls. 254-339-1122. We're not done?
Yeah, no, load them up. Load them up.
Here we go.
We're open, yeah.
All right.
Let's take this break, and then we'll come back.
All right, here's another one that was talking about, let's see here, on occasion somehow read some of Smokey's Rangers coverage when I lived in the Metroplex from Gary as well. We appreciate that.
Oh, they used to be fun to talk about.
Yeah, there was one more. Here we go from Randy Tucker. Listen to you guys when you were on 1660. You and Butch, Paul, all you guys no longer live in Waco, but it's good to find you on YouTube. All three of you listen to you most every day. Great show. Randy Tucker, thank you so much for listening, and everyone else as well.
Thank you, and it was good to see Waco ISD honoring Butch a couple weekends back when Midway played there. They had a sign at the entrance to the press box, and they did the whole little ceremony and had his family and some other people out there. So, yeah, we miss you, Butch, definitely. And look, he's wait, is the picture still there?
He's up there. Yeah. He's up there. We got him up there. Where is it? He's behind the white Baylor helmet. We got to move him to a place of prominence. Although that picture they used of Butch was very young Butch Henry.
Yeah, it was.
And
it's behind the second shelf, the BU white helmet.
And the 15 years I knew Butch, he was not that young. But I thought that was great to see that picture of him. And did my first job in radio, first day in radio.
Justin R. When I asked, he's a USF fan. They'd rather go by USF or South Florida.
I think they're USF.
Some schools are different. USF fans want to join the Big 12. However, I think the fact that we don't have an on-campus stadium, the new administration is trying to turn things around. Justin R., thanks for responding to me with my question to you in the chat room. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Don Shumidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. I got this from Ashley last time I was there. They have Vita Dreamy. Vita Dreams is what I call them. It's a container about this big. Looks like a big thing of maybe what would be one a day vitamins container. Vita Dreamies, THC free. But if you struggle at all, or maybe not much, but on occasion there's so much going on, you're not going to sleep and you're losing hours of sleep and you're tired and you go, God, I got to get. You could use these gummies. Bite a little part of a gummy or just take the whole thing. It'll help you, next thing you know, fall asleep. And let's say you fall asleep 30 minutes earlier, or an hour, or maybe longer. Think about how much more rested you are when you do wake up. Vita Dream is available at Don Humidor Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. Delta THC products available as well. And the newest of the cigars, Alec Bradley Gatekeeper number 7, Punch Knuckle Breaker, and also then Leather Rose Petite Corona. Those are some of the new cigars that they have they want you to know about. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, we're celebrating Ram Power Days, bringing the first truck brand to take the top spot overall in new vehicle initial quality by J.D. Power. With the 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star, you can get total values up to $6,000 or 2.9% for 72 months, plus $2,000 in bonus cash. All first responders get an extra $500. Come see why Ram wins great awards year after year. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Call us on the BetUS hotline, 254-339-1122.
All right, here we go. 254-339-1122. The chat room is amazing to me. It's almost like its own heartbeat. We could just like sit here and stare at the camera and you all would have your own show. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. It really is. Paul, you're going to love this comment from Chris. No, I'll read it later. Go ahead, Paul. Craig, go ahead.
Oh no!
I thought you were Paul. Somebody brought up the WNBA, right? The call. The WNBA is a factory of sadness. They should have to pay pain and suffering damages to any unfortunate person who watches that garbage. Chris. Oh, is that your brother? Is that like your twin?
No.
Our WNBA audience has plummeted in the last 15 minutes. But
it's plummeted really in the last few months.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, listen, we've seen great women's basketball. We have. We've seen the run that Baylor was a part of. We saw the UConns, the Notre Dames, and all that. But the WNBA, to me, seems like they are more worried about whining than getting better themselves. And I know that's not politically correct. I understand that someone's propping them up, but I just think they're unthankful or ungrateful for what they actually have, even though I'm sure conditions should be better.
No, they can always be better, but the WNBA is like, you hear all these things, and it's a different thing than even the soccer debate, which was a whole different animal. But the WNBA seems to, I think the thing that bothers me about their narrative about there should be more viewers or there should be more this is it seems to center on why aren't men watching the WNBA when, like, you want more viewers. Women need to go. Like that, like, get women. They're the ones who aren't watching as well, but maybe, you're just not saying, like, appealing to them the right way. So find a way to get women in seats. That's,
here's what you said about soccer, right? This is from J.G. Nialardo to Day Old Donuts. Maybe they learn from the women's national soccer team. If anything, those women have done more. And, the U.S. women's soccer teams, they've won a couple of these battles. But they went out and became popular and became rock stars with what they did.
And they had an argument that they were more popular than the men. The WNBA has absolutely zero argument.
Yeah. And will never have
one. There will never be close to an argument. They're subsidized by the NBA. That's why they even exist at this point. I'm all for the league, doing its thing and all that. But I will say, as an outside observer who does not watch and is not tempted to watch, you complaining to making me feel like I'm a bad person because I'm not watching does not entice me to watch.
Yeah.
And then when I do watch, if I'm like, hey, let's check out, like, flipping through channels or whatever, it's just not a product that appeals to me. It's just not.
No.
And I can go watch a Baylor women's basketball game in the last few years because they were exciting and they were fun to watch compared to a lot of other games that you would see. But yeah, the WNBA's got stars, they've got this, but, like, look, let's just call it what it is. It's what it is. It's not going to ever be huge. It's never going to be the third most popular sport in this country. It's never going to be fully embraced by most American sports fans. It's got a niche, and so do a lot of other sports. And instead of complaining about why aren't we up here? Well, there's a lot of reasons for it, and it's not just people not tuning in all the time. I don't know. I feel like
the product is
not good.
Not something that's going to bring a lot of people to watch them on TV.
It's not mainstream.
Paul hates women's basketball. And that's fine. And he used to take hell because he would say that because you're in a city where women's basketball was such a very popular thing, and it might still be. And good luck, Nikki Collins, by the way, in the exhibition last night. They won big.
I'm just not going to fake it anymore. Yeah. I'm just not going to fake it and pretend like everything's great and everything has to be great. It's like, look, I just don't like watching it, and I'm not going to watch it. And Liz Cambridge or whatever, I'm forgetting the name, yelling at me for not watching it, not going to make me watch it. So it just is what it is.
And look, it has nothing to do with my thing is I don't like watching things that are predictable in sports. Like, it's hard for me, I don't like watching men's sports that wind up in blowouts. In women's college basketball, there are 8 to 12 really good teams at the top, and then there's a bunch of mediocrity down below, and most of the games are 20-point blowouts, and you kind of just have to sit there and wait for it to be over, and there's not a lot of drama to it until you get to the Final Four.
Here's the deal. I watched the World Cup because it's unbelievable. On occasion, I find myself watching some of the European soccer leagues. I will watch some of the international games. But I'm not going to sit there and take time to do it. It's because a sport that I don't quite understand. And in some places, soccer is boring. In a lot of places, it's the most popular thing besides religion. And that doesn't mean it's a bad sport. Women's basketball at the WNBA level, I don't care what they say. They're not getting the numbers. They
actually had big numbers in the ratings comparatively to last year, which is also a COVID year. So they were up like a certain percent, but I think we've already spent far too much time on this, quite honestly.
From BU Bear, I've driven 4 hours round trip for a Baylor-UConn women's game. It was a great atmosphere. He goes, I won't drive 40 minutes to watch the Dallas Wings of the WNBA.
Exactly.
By the way, Jeff Grimm, Jeff Grimm, one of our great fans on this show, Alabama fan. Good luck to you, man, with what you're dealing with. Nothing, you'll be fine. We're wishing you the very best of luck. All right, you got to come back with the top five.
Yep.
All right, here we go. All right, coming up, Paul Catalina's the top five to close it out. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. When you contact people about insurance, and people are hit up with it all the time, what do you tell them? What do you say? I know you say you educate, but Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is obviously successful for a lot of different reasons.
Right.
And has hundreds of thousands.
It's personal service.
Okay.
It's one-on-one service. Just yesterday, went to a client's house, met with the couple, went over all the coverages, and they said, wow, we've, never had this before. We've had this different insurance and that different insurance, but we've never had somebody actually come to the house and go over everything with us. And wow, we really appreciate that, especially this day and time where just a click of a button and you really don't know who you're dealing with. It's a different person you call every time you call that 800 number. You don't know who your agent is. Now they have a face with the name, and it's more personal service.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 reasons we don't have a clear-cut Heisman candidate or front-runner or candidates.
This is weird. We're past the midway point of the season, and there are guys with names you can throw out, and I probably wouldn't say no to anybody. But most years we have a guy or two that is leading the race.
Before the season even starts. But these are the top 5 reasons. This particular year, we don't have that.
Okay. Oh, reasons, not the names.
No, not the names.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Yeah, because people want to throw out names on the chat. Give me names. I'm not going to say no to almost anybody. But it's also kind of shows you how the Heisman voting really works. Number 5, the biggest matchup of the season are still to come. So we haven't had a whole lot of those Heisman moments in big games yet, because the biggest games, you look at Ohio State, they've got their 3 biggest games coming up. Oklahoma has their biggest games coming up, although the Texas game, but the biggest, most important games are coming up for Oklahoma. The same thing for Georgia. Those games are coming up for the big and the better teams. And even for the teams that are maybe not upper echelon, the guys with some of the better players, those games are probably coming up, the better ones.
There was a little bit of that when Bijan Robinson broke that cross-field run against OU and he had the stiff arm. There was a little bit of that, and he's among the guys being mentioned. And then Caleb Williams, even though he's only played in like 3 games, his name because of what he did. And then I thought Kennedy Brooks exploded in that game, but he hasn't been week in and week out. They've been, as we know, hit and miss on occasion. But, yeah, that's a pretty good point. The Michigan, Ohio State, or Michigan State, Ohio State, or Penn State, or Georgia, whoever, yeah, maybe that's true.
Yeah, I mean, just to some extent, I will say there's one exception, is the 2 guys you could argue are probably the Heisman frontrunners right now have played, Alabama and Ole Miss, with Bryce Young and Matt Corral. But, yeah, I mean, we're missing out on C.J. Stroud running for 200 or throwing for 400 yards against Michigan, or something like that. Those moments are to come. I think, we're going to see the separation here in these next few weeks.
Yeah. Number 4, the big name preseason candidates have washed out. Spencer Rattler. If you had done it, I mean, he's out of it. He's not even starting anymore. DJ Uiagalelei has thrown 4 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions through 7 games. So that's not Heisman stats. So all these guys that you thought were going to be in there have washed out, and now has sent the college football world scrambling for who really to put their name behind, which, leads me to the next point, which let's maybe talk about these together, which is parity. There's a lot more parity in college football in the middle, and so it's hard to say, like, who should you really jump behind as the Heisman candidate, because we really don't know how they're going to finish out.
There's still the chunk of the teams at the top, and they'll eventually, most likely, like even the college basketball men's tournament, they'll get to the top. But wouldn't you say now, from about 13 or 18 and all the way to 40 or so, 45, that it's kind of parity?
Yeah, that's what it is. Number 3 is parity. You can go ahead and put that one up there.
I thought you just mentioned.
I was kind of moved. Yeah, that's what I said. I want to talk about it together.
But the NIL, think about what the NIL may have done too. Not that that's why they're struggling, but that was interesting.
Well, Rattler was the overwhelming favorite, and he washed out. So that automatically just changed things. And you've had, some other
De'Aaron King.
I was going to say De'Aaron King. Some other injuries that have occurred as well, where he was a top 5 to 10 Heisman preseason guy. And
Ukulele.
DJ at Clemson, and so that's definitely throwing it for a loop.
Right. Kenny Pickett is one of the names that's rising a little bit.
Absolutely. Should. Number 2, Georgia's best player, and is the best player on the best team, usually is the guy who wins it, is a defensive tackle.
Do you know how many stars he had coming out of high school?
I don't. It probably wasn't enough. He's damn good.
I think 3.
He's damn good.
Which is, there's a lot of exceptions. There's he's a Jordan Davis.
Yeah, Jordan Davis. The player I think of the most when I think of Georgia is a defensive tackle. Now they have great players at every position, but they don't have anybody who's racking up a ton of rushing yards. They don't have Herschel Walker.
He won't win it, but if he does, this might be a good year to slide in there. Mm-hmm. He ought to invite Ndamukong Suh to the ceremony and say, I just wanted to be here with you because you should have won it.
And usually, one of the candidates is the best, whether they're the winner or not, the best player on the best team is usually a candidate. That's why Ken Dorsey was a candidate. Well, I mean, I don't know. The most popular player, he wasn't the best player on that team. Sean Taylor was on his team.
Yeah, what I think about it, too, Corral's having a great year and Bryce Young's having a really good year as well. But the Heisman's whole thing for not wanting to basically crown anybody that's not a running back, receiver, or quarterback really limits itself. Yeah. And I don't think it really speaks to who the best player in college football is. And I don't know how often it really does anymore, because so often it's just, okay, well, who's the quarterback on the best team? And I've kind of been let down by a lot of the Heisman lately. I just haven't been, sold on it. And part of the reason why is, I know Ndamukong Suh should have been one, and Jordan Davis probably should be one this year, but we know he has absolutely zero chance. So, yeah.
Yeah. And number one, the stats leaders are not on the highest profile teams. The leader in passing plays for
How dare you disrespect Bailey Zappi in Western Kentucky?
But yeah, I mean, you've got these stats leaders. They're not on the high profile teams. So again, what they're doing is kind of, not reaching the people who are going to vote for
Well,
them.
the year Cincinnati gets into the playoff, if they do, as a non-Power 5, might be the year that we give somebody who's not a part of some alpha dog program the Heisman as well.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty well known for people listening now. I do stuff. I do the stats every week for the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award, and it focuses on players from the state of Texas, but they can be from any school in the country. It's Division I. So you have Charleston Rambo last week who won the award, who's from Texas but plays at Miami, and so on and so forth. And anybody who plays at an in-state Texas school is eligible as well. But I'll tell you, man, I'm putting that list together every week, and this week was a little different because you had Miami and Charleston Rambo, and you had some other big name schools, but it's been a lot of UTSA and Western Kentucky and SMU and those schools way more than it's been Ohio State. Ohio State's got a couple of Texas guys, and I don't think Garrett Wilson's made the list once this year.
Two wide receivers, right?
Yeah. Two. Was it Njigba?
Yeah.
And Garrett Wilson, but I don't think either one of those have been on the list this year so far.
I would also say that the best receiver at Ohio State's Olave, right?
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, again, Thibodeau, the kid from Oregon, is an amazing player, and as our guest Crepea mentioned earlier, but the problem is he missed some games early, right?
Yes.
He was out,
yeah.
That's okay. All right, Paul, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. All right, I love that Heisman trophy. It's such a good-looking thing.
I agree with all those. I'm probably, I'm sure if you're an Ole Miss fan or a Bama fan or somebody who's involved and you're probably still pretty excited about the Heisman, but yeah, it's felt like a bit of a down year in regard, and maybe that goes back to the fact that Jordan Davis isn't on any top 5 odds list, and he should be, because he is one of, if not the best players in college football, but that's not really what the award has been about for a long time, and we saw that with Sue, and we'll probably see that again this year to some extent. But, yeah, they might want to rethink that a little bit, honestly, to actually make this be about what it's supposed to be about.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. Good stuff, Paul. And also the Sean Connery bit got some feedback. People loved it. So we'll expect that now every day as well.
That was weird that he was a Scottish-speaking Russian, though, in that movie. That was... he didn't even try to.
I wasn't even smart enough to separate that. I just watched the movie.
There were a couple times in the movie where you can see he would say a Russian word or name, and he would put a little Russian on it, but he still was just. He
was just Scottish.
Sean Connery, he doesn't in any movie he's played American. He doesn't change his voice.
No.
He doesn't. He just did it.
I've always been about how some actors or actresses have another accent, but they can just talk straight English like it's no big deal. Of course, a lot of them have grown up in that environment as well. For Armstrong Sims, great stuff. Tomorrow, we'll have week number 10 of 11 of the regular season of high school football. We'll discuss that, plus a couple of special guests coming your way. Paul Catalina, Sean Connery, Craig Smoak as well. Thank you, as always, for watching, listening, chatting, texting, calling. What a day it's been. We appreciate you. This, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.